Chapter 573, Pang Chen, Darren, everything has been arranged. The subordinate reported to Bu Heng. Bu Heng asked, who did you find? Pang Chen, general level, he stepped into general level 7 years ago and has a wealth of battle experience. His most famous battle was against Qi Diaoyu. He lost after 30 moves, even though he was defeated, it was a glorious battle, and his reputation rose as a result. Qi Diaoyu. Bu Heng's expression shifted. He really is strong to have fought Qi Diaoyu to 30 moves. Yes. After Pan Qing lost to Qi Diaoyu, he came to the Great Peace Mo skill steals in search of a breakthrough. He has stayed in Great Peace City for more than 3 years, and has had more than 20 major and minor challenges. His strength has improved over this time. Not bad, not bad. Bu Heng had a satisfied expression. A general level that was strong like this could accomplish his goal of probing the unknown youth's abilities. Where is that person from guard camp? Bu Heng then asked. He's at the Mo skill steals, the subordinate instantly responded, Pang Chen has already gone ahead. Bu Heng had an expression of anticipation. Have you sent someone to observe? It has been arranged. Zhuo Mo was deeply concentrated in reading. The content on the stone steels were the most basic of fundamentals and there were few, if any, Mo that would read all of it. They would learn these fundamental concepts from a very young age and were extremely familiar with them. But Zhuo Mo read all the paragraphs without skipping any, one stone steel after another. He did not feel that any of these topics were troublesome. The words that Shi Ziming used were simple and easy to understand. The more Zhuo Mo read, the clearer his mind was. It was like there had been a painting in his mind shrouded in mist that was now slowly becoming clearer. Many places that he had thought were blank were being added. This painting was becoming more complete. This was not a strong feeling of pleasure, but it still deeply enticed Zhuo Mo. That happy feeling of the blanks being filled meant that he was progressing and could not stop his steps. It was like he was possessed. In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao and Wei were also sighing in surprise. This Shi Ziming is a very powerful person. A rare expression of shock appeared on Pu Yao's face. Wei understood more about Mo cultivation than Pu Yao. Much of the content here, especially some of Shi Ziming's explanations, seemed to hold a special power that enchanted people and caused them to sigh in wonderment. Is this guy really comprehending all of this? Pu Yao was slightly depressed. Zhuo Mo's talent in Mo cultivation was scary. It was like if a spark was given to him, he could immediately create a sea of flames. In comparison, Zhuo Mo's talent at cultivating the Yao arts was not bad, but comparing the two, they were not on the same level. No wonder Pu Yao was slightly depressed. Wei suddenly turned his face and said, surprised, Wen's talent isn't bad. Pu Yao snorted coldly, only he has a spark of talent in all of guard camp. The rest are just all poor people. Wen's talent was the brightest among guard camp. His comprehension ability was wondrous and even Shu Long was lacking in comparison. However, Shu Long's methodical and persistent personality was something people would have to consider when comparing the two. The Mo skill steals were in front of him, but Shu Long did not even read one character. He had kept a constant guard by watching the surroundings, and followed closely behind Zhuo Mo. There's nothing wrong with being poor. Wei's mood was clearly very good. Guard camp had a good seed in Wen with his wondrous comprehension and had a reliable leader in Shu Long. Wei was naturally in a good mood. At this time, a light flashed across Shu Long's eyes. A figure was walking directly towards them. Shu Long's expression changed slightly as he stared closely at the other. His body unconsciously shifted to a defensive posture. The other's steps seemed to have a certain mysterious rhythm. Each step seemed to fall on a strange beat. In this moment, Shu Long felt everything else in his view seemed to retreat like the tide. The only thing left in his vision was this male that was walking closer. Suddenly, a hand was placed on his shoulder. Shu Long's body shook slightly and the parts of his view that had disappeared suddenly recovered. the strange power of the man that was coming towards them disappeared. Shu Long's mind suddenly relaxed. Darren. Shu Long was full of shame. It's fine. Zuemo patted Shu Long's shoulder and said in a low voice, Protect a one, do not let anyone disturb him. Yes. Shu Long bit down on his lips and felt even more ashamed. They encountered an enemy but they needed Darren to defend them. Shu Long, oh Shu Long, was there anything more shameful than this? He swore inside that he had to work harder and cultivate. Zuemo walked in front of Shu Long, his eyes flashing with a cold light. Truthfully, it was not a pleasing matter to be interrupted when he was reading in pleasure. The other was clearly targeting him and held enmity. It seems that even if you do not to find people to challenge, someone has come to find you. Pu Yao's tone was that of a spectator. The other stopped in his walk about 3 zhang away from Zuemo and said politely. This one is Pang Chen, greetings to brother. Pang Chen was in his 30s and his body had an extremely well-balanced build. The muscles exposed was not in bulky, but were well-toned. Each muscle seemed to wrapped around him like coils of wire. People would not doubt the astounding power contained within. Zuemo looked coldly at the other. They had just arrived in Great Peace City and didn't know anyone in the city. This middle-aged man called Pang Chen had directly approached them and disrupted their comprehension. He clearly did not have any good intentions. Fortunately, Zuemo was only immersed in reading, and was not having an epiphany like a one. The state of epiphany was something of luck. If it was disrupted, no one knew when it would be the next time it occurred. No matter if it was Xiuzha or Yaoma, this kind of interruption was something that was almost forbidden. Say what you want. Zuemo said coldly. Since the other clearly did not have good intentions, Zuemo had no intentions on wasting effort being polite. Also, in Pu Yao's plan, he had to challenge some people to increase his fame. Since someone had come to him, that was good. Zuemo started to push up his sleeves. Pang Chen was slightly shocked. It was the first time he had seen someone like Zuemo. He suddenly found it was interesting. Did the other not know this was Great Peace City? In Great Peace City, someone that conducted themselves with this kind of attitude would not survive for long. This really was an arrogant greenhorn. He should finish this quickly. Pang Chen thought and did not waste words. This one wants to spar with Sir. Spar. You are challenging me. Zuemo raised an eyebrow. The MO and the surroundings instantly started to discuss. Pang Chen had been in Great Peace City for more than 3 years. Anyone who had spent some time in Great Peace City knew of him. People also quickly recognized that Zuemo was the person that had challenged Lan Tianlong at the city gates. The crowd instantly became excited. What people enjoyed the most in Great Peace City were the challenges. In this place, it was very easy to become famous, they just had to challenge others. Of course, there were unspoken rules about challenges. For example, if an unknown MO challenged a MO that was well established, the other could completely dismiss the challenge. Otherwise, those experts would not have time to do anything else. In the words of Great Peace City, those that just arrived in Great Peace City were nobodies. If new people wanted to become famous, there were battle stadiums where they could gain a little fame. Those that won in the battle stadiums would have the chance to challenge the famous warriors. For example, no one laughed at Lan Tianlong for refusing to fight Zuemo when Zuemo directly challenged him. They would feel that Zuemo was a new person who didn't know anything. Lan Tianlong's actions had people admiring his composure and mannerisms. But Pang Chen was definitely someone of renowned skill in Great Peace City. He was able to withstand 30 moves from Qi Diaoyu. This kind of strength was enough to stun others. And in these years in Great Peace City, he had never lost a challenge. People admired and respected him. If it wasn't that Pang Chen did not have any intentions of being recruited into a faction, many families would have sent him an invitations already. But a famous warrior who had been famous for so long challenged a newcomer. It was not common to see something like this in Great Peace City. Pang Chen felt slightly discontent at Zhuo Mo's gaze. He had been famous for a long time. When had a junior ever looked at him with a gaze like that? He smiled coldly and exposed his white teeth. Exactly. The crowd instantly became excited. Even the stupidest person could see that something else was causing this challenge, but no one cared. They were excited that they could see Pang Chen fight. A famous warrior. How long had it been since a famous warrior had fought? The news that Pang Chen challenged Zhuo Mo quickly spread throughout Great Peace City. Due to the sky-splitting calamity, war rose in all areas, and everyone's attentions turned to the state of the world. Great Peace City had been calm for a long time. Those families instantly smelled the unusualness of this challenge. Their intelligence gathering was faster and more accurate than the average person. The intelligence about guard camp, their conflict with the Green Yiksha was quickly delivered to their desks. The name guard camp started to enter their eyes starting from this moment. Connecting this to Buheng entering Great Peace City recently, they instantly knew who was behind this. However, the great majority of them just smiled. They felt that Buheng was too cautious. He had definitely paid a significant price to have Pang Chen act. Using Pang Chen to deal with a newcomer, wasn't that bullying? Many people felt that Buheng's reputation was overstated and they were even too lazy to go spectate. Lan Tianlong was one exception. When he heard his subordinate report the news, light flashed out of his eyes. He recalled that indiscernible feeling of danger that day. A deep meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Famous warrior. Pang Chen. Lan Tianlong unhesitatingly stood and sprinted outside. Go. Let's go watch. When he flew onto the street, he saw the people moving like the tide. A famed warrior was fighting. It caused Great Peace City, which had been peaceful for too long, to finally get busy. Hearing the people below excitedly discussing Pang Chen's ultimate skills, his famous fights, and the rumors about him, Lan Tianlong suddenly felt great anticipation for this fight. Chapter 574, Domineering Great Peace City, Challenge Stadium. The flood of people flowed in and quickly filled up the majority of stands. There had been people fighting inside, but when they heard a famous warrior, Pang Chen, was challenging someone, they instantly cleared the challenge stadium arena. Zhuo Mo's original plan was to beat this dislikable person until he was on the ground picking up his teeth, but no one was allowed to fight near the Mo skill steals. Zhuo Mo was also worried about interrupting Owen during his epiphany and agreed to go to the challenge stadium. When he watched as the stands filled up, Zhuo Mo recalled attending the sword test conference back at Wukong Mountain. This scene was very similar to back then. That was the only combat competition he had ever attended. All the fights since then were battles of life and death. They were harsh and cruel, and people would do anything for survival. He really missed that. He thought of how he had used formations to defeat his opponents and was scolded by the Shishu for embarrassing the sword sect. Thought of the adorable Xiaoguo, thought of Li Yingfeng Shiji. Right, back then, he had relied on Li Yingfeng Shiji. Unconsciously, Zhuo Mo's thoughts led him away. Those were hard but very happy days. Those warm scenes of being scolded were like rays of sunlight passing through the wooded canopy and warming the ground. They carried warmth and a slight breeze that filled his heart. An indescribable longing and sorrow spread in his heart. Zhuo Mo lowered his head. In his vision the ground was distant and blurry. The noise of his surroundings seemed far from him. There was only the sound of his heartbeat and his breathing. The world was silent, there was only his heart's murmurs. Sect leader, Shishu, I will definitely rescue Xiaoguo and Li Shiji. There was no gritting of the teeth, no steely determination. He was so calm there was barely a rise and fall to his breathing as he said these words, as though he was just carrying out a normal matter. There was no burning spirit, no cursing or swearing. This was what Zhuo Mo had said this to himself. In silence, Zhuo Mo raised his right hand and started to unwrap the bandages wrapped around his hand. He did not raise his head to glance at Pang Chen standing on the other side. A discussion started on the surrounding stands. Who is this person? He is so arrogant. Is he a newcomer? He dares to posture in front of Pang Chen. Ha, he really is seeking death. Ahahaha, in any case, it's his death. It's good for him to show off before he dies. So strange, Pang Chen is challenging a newcomer. Just how bored is this person? What is even more ridiculous is that this newcomer agreed. I cannot understand it. What if Pang Chen is defeated? Ridiculous. Please, Pang Chen is a famous warrior. Do you think the name of a famous warrior is worth so little? These newcomers now really do not have good judgment. So young, and he will lose his life. But Pang Chen's victory will not be a good one, he is lowering himself. The stands were not filled. Even though they could see a famous warrior fight, Pang Chen's opponent was undoubtedly too weak in the eyes of the public. These people had just come to see Pang Chen fight. As to winning and losing, there wasn't anything to look at. Pang Chen, if you cannot defeat this person within 10 moves, don't try courting me anymore. A young female suddenly raised her voice from the stands and shouted into the battlefield. This young female had an outstanding appearance with her bright eyes and her pouting lips that made her seem even more adorable. The stands instantly exploded. Wow wow wow. That is Miss Hua Ning. Now there is something to see now. Ha! I heard long ago that Pang Chen was pursuing Miss Hua Ning. It seems that the rumor is true. Now there is something to see. 10 moves. Miss Hua Ning is really vicious. Pang Chen roared in laughter. Since little Hua Ning has said it, Pang Chen does not dare to disobey. 10 moves it is. This shout was full of bravado and said without any hesitation. The mannerisms and confidence of an expert was displayed. Many Mo females showed admiration on the stands. Even though Miss Hua Ning was present, they still shouted and cheered for Pang Chen. The discussion increased in volume as everyone's interests were stirred up. Compared to the victory that was undoubted, this promise of victory in 10 moves was something more entertaining to see. Everyone started to speculate how many moves Pang Chen would need to win. Many people even started placing bets. Hua Ning was very satisfied with Pang Chen's response, her face excited. The guard beside her also looked with a smile at the stage. Receiving motivation from a beauty, Pang Chen's morale rose. Right now, his mind was filled with thoughts of how to win more beautifully. The beauty, Hua Ning, was here. If he did not win beautifully, then he would waste this rare chance to win her favor. However, when his gaze landed on Zhuo Mo, his face suddenly darkened. The other's head was lowered as he attended to unraveling his bandage. From beginning to end, the person did not look at him. Anger flickered through Pang Chen's eyes. He had had dozens of battles in Great Peace City before and no opponent dared to dismiss him like this. He did not take the opportunity to make a sneak attack. He had enough confidence in his own strength. Originally, he had only accepted money to do this, yet the underestimation that Zhuo Mo showed completely infuriated him. He, Pang Chen, was being dismissed by a newcomer. A feeling that he was being embarrassed rose. Pang Chen took a deep breath, his murderousness rising. If he could not kill this person, how could he leave an impression on Hua Ning? The long bandage was unraveled, and the Mo matrix on Zhuo Mo's right hand slowly was exposed to the eyes of the public. The bright blue light flowed along the Mo matrix with a dream glow. Pang Chen's pupils suddenly shrank. This was. At this time, Zhuo Mo raised his head. The scenes from Wukong Sword Sect and the Sword Test Conference retreated like the tide and his vision became clear again. His expression was cool, but that pair of eyes held an unusual determination and resolve, among the faint feeling of sorrow and longing. The other had come to him, then he would start his plan with this battle. Zhuo Mo's gaze suddenly became hardened. His aura felt like an invisible shroud had been taken off. A shocking presence was like a freed wild beast that shot off his body without any more disguise. Boom! The sudden exploding presence was like a tidal wave that spread out in all directions. The noisy stands suddenly choked on their shouts as though an invisible hand had gripped their throats. General level. He was general level. Pang Chen's eyes widened, shock and disbelief flashing across his face. He had known that Zhuo Mo was general level, from Green Yiksha's intelligence report. He had not paid close attention to this detail. Those that dared to make challenges in Great Peace City were all general levels. He had defeated several general levels. In a place like Great Peace City that was filled with experts, general level wasn't anything special. Only now, when Zhuo Mo released his enormous presence without any restraint, did he recognize that the situation was not good. In the stand, Hua Ning's eyes widened as she looked dazedly at the field. The expressions of the guards around her turned serious. Such a powerful presence. Let's start. Among the deathly silence, Zhuo Mo's cool voice was like the bell announcing death's arrival, and entered everyone's ears. Before the sound spread, with a lift of his leg, Zhuo Mo seemed to appear in front of Pang Chen, leaving behind afterimages. The serene blue Mo matrix drew a twisting ripple-like streak of light. The tight fist twisted the air, and carried great presence as it punched straight at Pang Chen's face. So fast. An extreme feeling of danger. Pang Chen's hairs stood on end. Under such an emergency, Pang Chen did not dare to hold anything back. With a bellow, his muscles tensed like a chain that suddenly pulled tight. A brown-colored Mo matrix suddenly appeared. Twisting python Mo physique. His arms seemed to snap and then shake as though they did not have bones. A brown light left his hand and shot at Zhuo Mo's fist. At the same time, a shadow that was hard to notice with the naked eye shot straight at Zhuo Mo's lower body like snake hidden in the shadows. In this opening attack, Pang Chen unhesitatingly used his strongest attacks. The serene blue Mo matrix carried mind-shaking light as it hit the brown light in a contest of strength. Pang Chen's expression suddenly changed. He abandoned the attack and quickly retreated. Bam! The thunderous sound of an explosion sounded as though something had broken through something soft. The brown light exploded into a spray of brown mist. A serene blue fist continued charging out of the brown mist of light and chased Pang Chen. Pang Chen's soul almost left his body. That snapping attack had a name called the Python Twist Flick. It used softness to dissipate force, and had never failed. Today, it wasn't even able to stop the other for a moment. This meant that the power of the other's punch far surpassed the tolerance of the Python Twist Flick. Pew! At the same time, a gold light flashed on the other's left fist as he blocked the sneak attack. Snake Tongue Arrow. Even the sharp Snake Tongue Arrow was not able to affect the other at all. What Mo skill was this? How could it have such terrifying power? What Zhuo Mo used wasn't a Mo skill at all, but the Sky Wave Fist scripture that he had given up a long time ago. For the present Zhuo Mo, this fist scripture was too low level to display his full power. However, he had just learned some basic techniques from the Mo skill steals. When they flashed through Zhuo Mo's mind, he unconsciously adjusted the fist scripture. The path that the Diana Xiao took was, at the core, not very different than Mo skills. Zhuo Mo had the 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus Mo physique that was third ranked in general level. Even though he could not express the full power, but the strength of his physical body was not lacking compared to any general level Mo physique. Especially his right hand that was engraved with the 10,000 layer iron Kaori Mo matrix. That was extremely hard and the power of this fist scripture could be completely released. When Zhuo Mo attacked he used Sky Wave Fist Scripture, S most powerful killing move, Sky Glass Wave. This was the only move that Zhuo Mo thought was acceptable out of the entire Sky Glass Fist scripture. However, unlike before when the fist energy would leave his hand, Zhuo Mo used his strong control to keep the continuously multiplying power inside his right fist to form such a domineering punch. Even Zhuo Mo was surprised at the power of this punch. But his mind did not relax. His right leg that landed on the ground pushed off again. The words on the Mo skill steel flowed like water across his mind. The sinews, bones, blood and flesh in his body automatically adjusted as though they were alive. His movements became even more balanced and coordinated, his power even more condensed, and his speed even faster. Zuomo's body imperceptibly shook and the air around him suddenly exploded. Pia! The light sound rang out over the entire field. An intangible ripple spread. Zuomo felt his entire body light up as though all the restraints tying him down had been broken. Lan Tianlong suddenly stood up from where he was on the stands, his face stunned. He looked hard at the ghostly figure on the field. That was Sonic Boom. Chapter 575, Kills Sonic Boom. It referred to the explosion that occurred when the body broke free of the restraints of air. Technically, this technique was not difficult and even someone in brigadier level could comprehend it, but in reality there were very few MO that comprehended this technique. This was because sonic booms required a solid foundation in the fundamentals and basic techniques. One had to be very balanced and outstanding at controlling every part of their body. Yet for these people that started cultivating when they were children, there were rarely any that would cultivate the basic MO skills one by one. Every MO skill had their focus, and being balanced meant that no one trait was outstanding. For MO that were highly competitive and lived in cruel environments, not many would choose this. The MO that could achieve sonic booms may not be very strong, but they were well-rounded and good at controlling their body. The benefits of the sonic boom could be seen. Breaking free of the restraint of air meant that one's movements could become faster and more nimble. The momentum behind their attacks could be stronger. The MO that could achieve sonic booms had the outstanding ability to balance their body and would have each action under their complete control, for example, Zwa MO at this time. His back was slightly arched like a cat about to pounce. His right hand that was drawn back at the side of his body and flashed with a serene blue light. His punch drew out a heart-shaking stream of light. His movements were clearly lightning fast, but every action was clear and crisp, perfectly coordinated. It carried a beauty that was pleasing to the eye. Pang Chen definitely did not feel any sense of this beauty. A thin layer of sweat had unconsciously appeared on his forehead. After blocking just one attack and retreating one step, he felt as though he had fought for a long time and was extremely exhausted. His resilient mind that he was proud of started showing signs of instability. All of this was because of the other's strong pressure. A suffocating pressure that could crumble mountains. It was just one punch. There was a gigantic battle arena, but for some reason, he felt as though he was trapped with nowhere to escape. At the sonic boom just now, his expression changed. It was not the first time he had seen a sonic boom, but now. His gaze stared hard at the serene blue light that flowed and flashed in the air. His body uncontrollably shivered, all the blood inside seemed to freeze, every muscle seemed to disobey. The other's murderousness seemed to wrap around him. No matter where he tried to flee, he would not be able to escape the other. Time seemed to slow in his eyes. That mind-blowing serene blue light seemed to slow down. He seemed to already see the result. He would not be able to dodge it. He would be destroyed. Blood rose in Pang Chen's eyes. He was like a wild beast trapped in a cage and furiously fought back. He was a famous warrior who had fought through numerous battles. Fighting free of the terror, his fighting spirit exploded. Dead, then he will also die. Pang Chen's expression was twisted. He glared angrily and ignored the streak of flowing light that was heading towards him. He charged forward rather than retreat, leaping directly at Zwa Mo. The brown Mo matrix was like the scales of a python, layer upon layer that covered Pang Chen's body. They seemed to come alive and wandered all over Pang Chen's body. His body became as flexible as a snake, each muscle like a cord made from numerous thin chains woven together. Using his left foot as the pivot, his body twisted strangely. Every piece of muscle tensed and suddenly contracted like a slender iron chain. Shocking power exploded the moment the muscles tensed. The power was passed on in waves to his right fist. The brown light seemed to be tangible as it shrouded his right fist. It seemed to be the head of a python, howling and shrieking as it swept the entire field like a gale wind. twisting python pounce. Lan Tianlong's eyes lit up on the stands. His hands dug into the stone handrails but he did not feel it. Pang Chen's twisting python pounce was much stronger than in the past. All the power in his body gathered in Pang Chen's right fist in this instant. This strange technique of gathering power was extremely powerful in its momentum. Even among Great Peace City that was filled with experts, it was an unique attack. Just as Lan Tianlong was shocked, a change happened. The brown ball of light that shrouding Pang Chen's right fist began to crumble from the top like a mold of dirt. The layer outside started to fall off. A lifelike brown python head appeared. The cold pupils, the triangle-shaped head, the tongue that flickered about. It was still a brown light but it gave people a feeling of being alive. The eyes of the brown python narrowed slightly. Its great mouth opened and its sharp teeth shot out. Crack! Lan Tianlong's hand tensed and he ripped a large piece of stone off the handrails. Lan Tianlong's eyes did not move away. He felt his blood boil when he saw Zhuo Mo's punch and he hadn't expected for Pang Chen to have a breakthrough while standing at the gate of life and death. Seeing this, he wanted to get on the field as well. Pang Chen was overjoyed. He hadn't thought he would have a breakthrough at such a crucial moment. A power he never felt before swelled up and filled every muscle in his body. He had never felt so powerful before. He had confidence that anything, no matter what, would turn to dust in front of his punch. Even if it was a mountain. Go die. The howl of the brown snake was like a furious wave that covered all sound in the battle stadium. Suddenly, he saw a pair of eyes, a pair of clear and determined eyes. He stilled slightly. The serene blue light rippled as it suddenly jumped into his field of view. This was. The other did not dodge, did not hesitate or pause. It was as though the other did not see anything. That fist that was covered in the serene blue emo matrix collided with the python. Ha! Idiot! Pang Chen wanted to laugh out loud. He had not imagined the other to be so confident to such a level. Even seeing that he had had a breakthrough, the other still tried to overpower him. Such an idiot! Did he not know that the twisting python pounce, after his breakthrough, was 10 times as powerful as before? 10 times. Such intoxicating power. Come, have a taste of 10 times the power. Pang Chen's smile suddenly became vicious. Yet his smile suddenly froze on his face. The scene in front of him seemed to play out in slow motion, delayed and crystal clear. He watched as the brown snake started to crumble, from the teeth, and then turned to dust. Why was it like this? He did not have the time to think before the python turned to a ball of powder and dissipated. The sharp howl abruptly stopped. 10 times. The blue light filled every corner of his vision. Zhuo Mo did not take a second look at the pile of blood and flesh. He panted. The punch just now had used up almost all the power in his body. He took a few deep breaths and he recovered some strength. He raised his right fist. The serene blue emo matrix on his hand had diminished in intensity. Zhuo Mo was savoring the feeling of that punch just now. If it was just pure physical power, the attack definitely would not be so destructive. The moment he came into contact with the other's fist, a thread of Shen power inside the right fist suddenly came out. This was what caused such a terrifying, sky-glass wave. Shen power. Zhuo Mo was contemplating this occurrence. Zhuo Mo quickly recovered. The stands were completely silent. Everyone was gaping, their faces pale and had terrified expressions. Among this death-like silence, Zhuo Mo walked back to his starting position, back straight, picking up his bandage, and started to rewrap his hand. His movements were slow and his expression serious as though no one else was around. There was no joy from his victory. Even though he had gained understanding on many things from this fight, even though he had successfully completed a step in Pu Yao's plan, but if none of this had ever happened, if he was still on Wukong Mountain, then how good would that be? This absurd thought flashed in his mind and then disappeared just like the warm memory fragments. he grimaced inside. His eyes became clear again, and determination set in. "Hey, what are you called?" On the stands, Hua Ning suddenly shouted loudly. The guards around her instantly became nervous. From Zhuo Mo's display just now, they knew he was a very dangerous person. Zhuo Mo was slightly surprised. Just now, he had heard what Hua Ning had said to Pang Chen. This woman was really heartless. He couldn't help but glance at Pang Chen on the ground in sympathy. He did not stop to respond and continued to walk back outside. "My Agui is so much better." Xu Long had an expression of relief and hurried over. He had been very nervous just now. Hey, I asked you a question." Hua Ning still chased after him. Zhuo Mo was too lazy to pay attention to a girl with such a bad heart. He left. You. Hua Ning had not expected that someone would ignore her. She instantly burst into tears and her guards hurried to comfort her. In the stands, Lan Tianlong did not call out to Zhuo Mo. However, his eyes flashed. His intuition that day had not been wrong. Only when Zhuo Mo's figure disappeared from the battle stadium did the deathly silent stands lose all restraint and explode. The roaring crowd made it so that people could not even hear what the person next to them said. Everyone's expressions turned from an ashen white to an excited red. The fight just now was brief, but it was mind-blowing and unexpected. Everyone was immersed in the fight just now. That unparalleled and domineering punch. The promise of 10 moves that Pang Chen had declared, his breakthrough at the cusp of life and death. The famous warrior Pang Chen had been killed in 2 moves and his opponent was an unknown newcomer. This fight would shake the entire city. Feng Yu hurried with her army. She had disobeyed military orders and had secretly taken an army troop with her, but she knew what was most important. She had followed Jiang Zhe for a long time and her judgment was not bad. She knew that this period of time was the prelude to a large battle. After a brief respite, the counterattack from the Mo would come. She had to take revenge for Ding Zhenshushu before the Mo retaliated. So while traveling, she did not rest for one moment. She desired to reach Cloud Sea Jia at the fastest possible speed. After they crossed this Jia River, they would be in Cloud Sea Jia. Everyone is tired. There is just a bit of road left. Everyone, put one last effort in. We will rest when he get to Cloud Sea Jia. Feng Yu motivated the group. The subordinates could not disguise their exhaustion, but they nodded. Feng Yu held great weight among them and they were well trained. It was difficult to travel fast like this, but there was still a distance until it reached their limits. Let's cross the river. Feng Yu gritted out. Ding Zhenshushu, I will definitely get revenge for you. Chapter 576, Enemy Invasion. The death of Pang Chen shook all of Great Peace City. This was the first famous warrior death in the last half-year. The chaos rifts caused the fighting between the 3 factions to quickly intensify. People's attentions naturally were on the increasingly complex state of the world. Many experts had returned to their clans to participate in the war. Great Peace City had been silent for a long time as a result, but as the state of some places stabilized, experts, like Lan Tianlong, came back. Great Peace City recovered its usual atmosphere. Pang Chen had died. The opponent was a newcomer. 2 punches. The Mo who had watched the fight in person tried their best to describe the dominance and terrifying nature of the 2 punches. The promise of 10 moves by Pang Chen to Miss Hua Ning became the biggest joke of the challenge. The mirage of this challenge was a hot seller. The enthusiasm of the Great Peace citizen erupted. How many years had it been since a newcomer beat a famous warrior? As the rules were perfected, challenges that crossed levels in status like this were rarer to see. No one was concerned about why Pang Chen had challenged Zhuo Mo. They only knew that Pang Chen had died on the hands of a newcomer. They quickly found that even now, they did not know what this newcomer was called. So people started to investigate. The name of Butcher Guard camp that killed 3,000 bandits with 100 people, rescued Tao Xing's group on their way, used one attack to defeat the King Yiksha, and caused hundreds of green Yiksha to flee. He became even more mysterious. Now, many factions paid attention to this newcomer that had come out of nowhere. Great Peace City seemed to come alive. What? Pang Chen is dead? Bu Heng's wine cup crumbled to dust in his hands. Yes. The subordinate hurriedly played a mirage. Bu Heng stared motionlessly at the mirage as though he was paralyzed. The mirage perfectly captured the entire process. Without any effort, Bu Heng could catch every detail. Even outside the mirage, Bu Heng felt his mind shudder at the other's domineering punch. We underestimated him, Bu Heng suddenly said. He straightened his back, and his expression became peaceful again. He had seen the mirage of Pang Chen and Qi Diaoyu's fight. Qi Diaoyu had not used all of his power, but Pang Chen was definitely one of the top fighters in order to withstand 30 of Qi Diaoyu's moves. Also, Pang Chen had improved over the years, and even had a breakthrough at the end, but he was still killed by that one punch. Just who was this person? The other seemed to have come out of nowhere. Even now, they had not identified the other's origins. This caused Bu Heng to feel anxious. Bu Heng was not worried about individual strength. From his angle, while that punch was domineering and mind-shaking, if the other did not have a strong background, he still had many ways of eliminating the other. This was Great Peace City. This place never lacked for experts. Ajago, I heard you lost a while ago, a large man laughed, his tone teasing. Ajago was not angry and said with a smile, I encountered a very powerful Xiuzhe battle general. He isn't just strong. His battalion is clearly much weaker than mine, but he was able to fight me to standstill. If our battalions were the same strength, I probably would not be able to win. So powerful? The large man was surprised. Ajago, you are one of the 3 great battle generals of our stellar Rahula clan. Even you are not a match. Ajago grimaced and spread his hands. I'm really not a match. The large man's surprise increased. He knew that Ajago would not joke about a matter like this. After a moment of thought, he said, how do you think Bai Shan compares to him? Bai Shan was the head of the 3 stellar Rahula clan battle generals, and he had never lost in his life. Not as good. Ajago shook his head. The large man's expression became serious. Is he a disciple from the Big Four? Xian Kong Temple has produced that Jiang Zhe who recently took over Cold Mountain Jie. Many people are rallying together now in preparation to take back Cold Mountain Jie. He is not a disciple from the 4 sects, I asked him, they are from Cloud Sea Jie. I detected from his tone that they do not like the Big Four very much. Ajago was an attentive person despite his easygoing nature. The reason that they attacked Middle Granary Jie seems to be for the chaos rift to this side. Do they want to invade the Mo territories? The large man's expression changed slightly. Who could not be on their guard when there was a powerful opponent next to them? They don't seem like it. Ajago thought and the end said, from the discussion I had with them, they are not the same as the Big Four, and they do not seem to be hostile to Mo. Also, there are not many of them. They would need to take a long time to stabilize Middle Granary Jie. They seem to want the Chaos Rift for a certain goal. What do you plan to do? The large man's expression eased. Become allies. Ajago said crisply. It would be terrifying to have such a strong battle general as an enemy. It is much better to become friends. It will be worth it even if I have to pay a price. And, if he is as strong as you say, this is right, the large man nodded and said. How is the progress on Bai Shan and the others' end? Ajago asked. Not very smooth. The large man shook his head, his expression worried. They encountered trouble. Gongye Xiaorong's reputation is not as famous as Jiang Zhe, but he is just lacking a major victory. Bai Shan has lost 2 times already. Fortunately, the losses were not large. Bai Shan is planning on allying with the Yao in the area. However, the battle general of that Yao battalion is very young, and it is a female. Female? Zhao Gu stilled. Yes, she's called Mu Shi. She is from a famous family, the Palace Lake Mu clan, but she is too young. I'm slightly worried. The large man's expression was slightly displeased. He clearly felt discontent that their ally had sent a little girl. Zhao Gu was also worried, but he still comforted. Palace Lakewood clan is a famed family. If they dare to send this little girl, she definitely is extraordinary in some aspect. I hope it is so. The large man grimaced and suddenly said, "What do you think about the state of affairs?" Zhao Gu smiled. To use a common saying, a new era has arrived. How so? The large man asked interestedly. The sky-splitting calamity has pushed the Yaoma and Xiuzhe that used to be separated by blood sky metropolis Jia back together. It is unavoidable for Yaoma and Xiuzhe to mix together. Zhao Gu's expression was extremely serious. The large man shook his head in disagreement. We and the Xiuzhe have generations of blood and hate between us, how can we mix? As there is more and more contact between Yaoma and Xiuzhe, the mixing cannot be stopped. There are so many chaos rifts, who can seal them all? This whirlpool will increase in size, no one can escape. We will definitely be fighting now, but there will be a day when everyone gets tired of fighting and will naturally come together, Zhao Gu said with a chuckle. The large man found it hard to accept what Zhao Gu said. He shook his head and said with a smile, "Your thoughts are always different than everyone else. Time would prove everything." Zhao Gu raised an eyebrow. Turtle Island. Ma Fan's face almost scrunched into a ball. Looking at the busy campsite, he rubbed his head. He really wanted to complain and say, "So troublesome," but when the words reached his mouth, he swallowed them. Right now, he was the commander of a camp, and he could not be as carefree as before and do as he wished. Ever since Lil Miss put Black Turtle Camp into his hands, he put almost all of his mind and heart into it. Like a sponge, he furiously soaked up knowledge about being a battle general and spent all his time on this. The strength of Black Turtle Camp had continuously increased. As Turtle Island's status in Cloud Sea Jia continued to stabilize, there were greater numbers of young and accomplished people that came to participate. The average strength level was much higher. Other than an occasional inspection, Lil Miss did not pay too much attention to Black Turtle Camp. Black Turtle Camp was created entirely based on Ma Fan's thoughts. The skeleton of Black Turtle Camp was the Sky Peak Platoon and the other members were local Xiuzhe. There were many Jindan Xiuzhe, but in terms of combat ability, they were very lacking compared to the Jindan of Vermilion Bird Camp. Even more troublesome was that these Xiuzhe were from different families and had different spells and talismans they used. There were Diana Xiu, Roaming Xiu, and Sword Xiu. Ma Fan knew that his battle general skill level was limited, so he changed his usual laid-back personality and paid careful attention to details. Maybe it was because he had been the tactical center before that Ma Fan was most skilled in microtactics. All of Black Turtle Camp followed him in this. He made up teams, one after the next, and designed small area tactics for all of them. Black Turtle Camp was like a smorgasbord. The Xiuzhe in each team were of different types and each team's tactics were different. At many times, Ma Fan felt that his Black Turtle Camp was like the clothing of a beggar, patched together. He especially longed for the pleasure of Vermilion Bird Camp's 1,000 swords moving at once. However, he could only be envious. Whenever these thoughts occurred, then it was the time that Black Turtle Camp's training increased drastically. The training intensity of Black Turtle Camp was based on Vermilion Bird Camp's standard. The amount of training was so high that many local Xiuzhe complained. However, Ma Fan was a cunning person. If someone wanted to slack off under his eyes, that was akin to seeking death. The sword formations were like cages dripping with blood as they were set up around the training camp. Wanted to slack off? Then in you go. Ma Fan did not have a high opinion of Black Turtle Camp, but what surprised him was that when Lil Miss came for an inspection, Lil Miss had praised him. When he saw the red eyes of Wei Ran and the others, Ma Fan felt his entire body lightened. Whenever he went back to think about this, Ma Fan's mood would become much better. However, while Black Turtle Camp had also participated in the fight for Middle Granary Jia, they were still overshadowed by Vermilion Bird Camp. He was not very happy. This time, Ma Fan had come back to Turtle Island with orders for Black Turtle Camp to engrave formations. Supposedly, Turtle Island's MO matrices had had a breakthrough. Golden Crow Camp could engrave even more powerful formations. Lil Miss, who felt that the camp's strength was not enough, decided to have Black Turtle Camp go back to get formations engraved. However, they had to wait for a few days. Golden Crow Camp still had a few MO who had not finished. Ma Fan was not in a hurry. Returning to Turtle Island, he felt very close to this. However, he still spent his time on the training of Black Turtle Camp. He was continuously correcting and adjusting the problems exposed during the battles of Middle Granary Jie. Suddenly, a paper crane flew in front of Ma Fan. Before he even unfolded it, Ma Fan's expression changed. This type of paper crane would only be used for an emergency report. He unfolded the paper crane. Enemy invasion. Jie River. Chapter 577, Please Call Me Xiao Mo Gu. The report had not come from Lil Miss Darren but from a town near the Jie River. They had originally been planning to set up the island formation near the town, when a battalion of about 1,000 people suddenly appeared. They realized that this battalion was not one from Cloud Sea Jia after the Xiuzha they sent as a messenger had been killed, confirming status as an enemy. When Ma Fan received the report, he understood the seriousness of the situation. Lil Miss was in Middle Granary Jia and in Cloud Sea Jia, the only camp that could fight was Black Turtle Camp. Fortunately, in order to connect the large Cloud Islands together, the transportation formations inside Cloud Sea Jia were very well developed. The area near the Jia River was also a place greatly protected and the transportation formations were very convenient. Ma Fan decided to report the news to Lil Miss Darren as he furiously organized his troops to rush towards the Jia River. After going through several transportation formations, Ma Fan's Black Turtle Camp reached the Jia River at their fastest possible speed. To his surprise, when he arrived, the other side was resting. With a moment of thought, Ma Fan understood. The other probably had traveled a long distance and needed to recover. The Xiuzha that had went to meet them had been killed. There was no need to inquire about their intentions. Such a powerful battalion. Nian Lu said in surprise. Ma Fan's expression was slightly grave. He could also see the extraordinary skill of this battalion, from their outfits, equipment and their well-organized troops. They were definitely military. What are we afraid of? If we charge, they will fall. Lei Peng rumbled, his expression unconcerned. Without Lil Miss control in Black Turtle Camp, Lei Peng's bravado had grown. Can you see their origins? Ma Fan asked Nian Lu. Of the three, Nian Lu was the most detail-oriented and was a very good vice-commander. Nian Lu's eyes narrowed and a moment later, his expression changed slightly. It is a battalion from Xian Kong Temple. The insignia on their bodies flashed with light under the sun. Lil Miss had expected Xian Kong Temple to come seek them long ago and paid special attention to intelligence from Xian Kong Temple. Xian Kong Temple. Ma Fan's expression couldn't help but change slightly. No wonder he felt the others' troops were extraordinary, a Xian Kong Temple battalion. Having discovered the others' origins, the trio knew there was no way to avoid this fight. But a battalion from Xian Kong Temple. Up until now, Black Turtle Camp had never had a large battle. Ma Fan knew without thinking what the result of facing this Xian Kong Temple battalion was. Lil Miss Darren had definitely received the news now. Vermilion Bird Camp was most likely on the way. What they needed to do was delay them and wait for Vermilion Bird Camp to arrive. Ma Fan didn't even think about facing them in real battle. Cloud Sea Jia was not a large Jia, and even the outstanding disciples of local sects were lacking compared to the Xiuzha in the others' battalion. But no matter what, they could not let the other advance deep into Cloud Sea Jie. The Great Thousand Island formation was not yet complete. There was Turtle Island and Golden Crow Camp. If the other charged onto Turtle Island, then Darren's great estate would be ruined. He definitely could not accept this. Ma Fan looked behind him. Black Turtle Camp had departed just as training for the day had started. They were now just warmed up, and they had arrived using the transportation formations, so they had not expended a great amount of energy along the way. In other words, Black Turtle Camp's energy and alertness were at their peak. The other might look disciplined, but their expressions could not disguise their tiredness. Ma Fan gritted his teeth, murderousness flashing through his eyes. This was their best chance. If the other recovered, then it would not be good. Thinking it through, Ma Fan's expression calmed down. He pulled over Lei Peng. Lei Zi, you are first, let's charge. Lei Peng grinned, his expression excited. He liked these words the best. As to that Xian Kong temple, who was that? Feng Yu's expression darkened. This battalion had clearly come from another place. The other's quick response almost surpassed her imagination. She was very knowledgeable and instantly understood Cloud Sea Jie had built a well-developed transportation formation system. She couldn't help but be surprised. Everyone knew the benefits of a transportation formation system, but each transportation formation was a significant expenditure. They also needed Xiuzhe skilled in seal formations to build them, and creating a system would take a large amount of jingshi. Not everyone would be willing to spend such a great price. But when her gaze swept this battalion, the anxiety in her heart settled back down. The other battalion's skill level was very lacking compared to her battalion. She did not feel that this was strange. This was an expected situation. The regular battalions of Xian Kong Temple were not lacking compared to the elite battalions of smaller places. This was what it meant to be a great sect. Even more, they were one of the Great Four. They were like the titans at the top of the food chain. They could idly look down at the beings living below. With just a pinky, they could crush a whole group of little ants. In the eyes of Feng Yu, Cloud Sea Jie was a little group of ants. Ants could chew an elephant to death, but not a dragon. Suddenly, her expression stilled. Disbelief came onto her face. The other battalion was charging at them. Feng Yu had followed Jiangzhe through numerous battles. Other than the MO, no battalion had ever attacked them first. Were these people crazy? Feng Yu stood up, her eyes becoming icy. She was going to let these ants know that even the spark of anger from a dragon was enough to burn them to the point that not even ash would remain. The other Xiuzhe also stood up. The laughable actions of the other side provoked these proud combat Xiu. Gao Xian was feeling panicked. He had not expected Feng Yu to be in such a rush. He had sprinted with 500 people, but he still could not catch up to the other. The reply that Feng Yu had given him was that she would finish the battle as quickly as possible. Thinking about this, Gao Xian couldn't help but grimace. He was trying his best to hurry and catch up, but the girl was not grateful. However, he did not doubt Feng Yu's confidence. Feng Yu was a better battle general than he was, and the 1,000 combat Xiu in her command were experienced and had been tempered in battle. Even though they could not compare to the Jiangxi battalion, they would dominate in any normal jie. But he still did not dare to linger and sprinted on. Hem hem hem. Zuo pretentiously coughed. Everyone, including Tao Xing, Tang Fei, and Shou Ping were pulled over. Everyone looked in puzzlement at Zuo looking at him. It seemed he had something to announce. Starting from today, everyone, call me Xiao Mo Gu. Zuo bowed. The people stared at each other and did not understand what Zuo was doing. Tao Xing was the first to react. His eyes lit up. Is Mr. Zuo worried that someone will figure out your background? It is Mr. Xiao. Zuo seriously corrected Tao Xing. Tang Fei's expression shifted. Inside, she thought, was this guy's background really extraordinary? Otherwise, why would he use an alias? Zuo's reaction was evidence for Tao Xing's speculation. Tao Xing said unconcernedly, even though I feel that this will not work, but if you insist, this isn't a problem. Very good. Zuo clapped and turned to look at the other people. Tang Fei nodded. All right. Shou Ping obediently nodded. Not a problem, Xiao Darren. After he had been admonished by Tsing Lianer, Shou Ping became much more obedient. Zuo automatically ignored Tsing Lianer. Zuo was not changing his name due to an impulse. The name Zuo would easily catch the attention of Kunlun. Who would know if there were Kunlun spies here? Even though you are not part of my battalion, I still have to remind you that the challenge this time is not an accident. Someone is acting against us, Zuo said calmly. Tao Xing nodded. It is Bu Heng. He had stayed in Great Peace City before and knew what went on behind the scenes. He explained, Bu Heng and his battalion have entered Great Peace City. He should be the culprit this time. This guy just won't go away, Zuo muttered. He had completely forgotten how he had killed a few hundred of the others' people. However, when he thought, he instantly became happy. Bu Heng would not rest and would definitely send more people to test him out. Wouldn't they be delivering themselves to him? He wouldn't have to go find time to make challenges. However, before this, he had to make a few more trips to the MO skills steals. The content on the steals were very useful. What he had comprehended from the MO skill steals had been crucial in dealing the fatal strike to Pang Chen. This filled him with anticipation about the other content on the MO skill steals. Wen had been scolded heavily by Xu long after his epiphany passed. Protecting Darren would be his first responsibility. Thinking how Darren had left someone to guard him so he would not be disturbed during his epiphany, Wen was both moved and ashamed. Yet what he had not expected was that Darren had given him an unexpected order. Darren requested that he had to read every MO skill steal. Even if Wen was stupid, he understood that Darren's orders were to benefit him. He swore inside he would always follow Darren. Zuo did not think so much. He was still feeling the longing for the MO skill steals. Yet what he did not expect was when he walked out of the yard, someone shouted, "He's come out." Whoosh, a big group of people surrounded him. Zuo was shocked and almost attacked, but he quickly found that while these people were excited, they did not hold enmity. Darren. Please accept me as your student. Darren. Please accept me as your student. The tide of people crowded around Zuo and cut off all paths of exit. Zuo's face was confused and he clearly did not understand what was going on. Only when Tao Xing came out of the compound, squeezing through the crowd to stand next to him and explain, did Zuo finally understand. They wanted to become his students. These people had come in search of a teacher. This was caused by Zuo's victory of Pang Chen. The crowd was packed and looked extremely spectacular. After a rough glance, Zuo estimated there were at least 100 people, all of them looking pleadingly at Zuo, do not agree. Tao Xing said in a low voice by his ear, these people are not strong enough and do not have any potential. If you agree, they will be a burden. Zuo was silent. Chapter 578, Qi Diaoyu. Zuo looked back at the pleading eyes. Thinking about his past, he did not feel good about his decision, but he also knew that Tao Xing was right. This was not Cloud Sijie. He was surrounded by enemies here, and he would die if he was the least bit careless. At that time, it wouldn't just be risking his life. If he was in trouble, even these people would not have good endings. Zuo was about to speak. Suddenly, a strange sound pierced the noisy street from the distance. It was like a flute but not a flute, the sound was thin as a hair and just barely discernible. The loud streets instantly quieted. This sound seemed to have a power that could soothe one's mind and unconsciously calm them. A figure slowly walked in from the direction of the city gate. A little black dot slowly grew into a tall figure. Snowy white robes, eyes like lacquer, the black hair fell like a waterfall onto a face that was so beautiful it did not seem like one of a man. There seemed to be an indiscernible power that made one unable to move their gaze. Around this figure several drops of transparent water mischievously condensed and scattered like a school of fish. That strange and bewitching sound was produced by these water droplets. When this person walked closer, that feeling of serenity grew stronger. He walked slowly, his eye looking forwards as though he did not see any other people. His movements were graceful and ethereal like that of an immortal. The sounds produced by the water droplets were extremely pleasing to hear. The more Zhuo listened, the more enchanted he became. Some beautiful memories appeared in his mind's eye. All the worries, all his depression, they all dissipated, a smile unconsciously rose onto his face. Suddenly, the sun's script at Zhuo's chest lit up. A slender burning flow of power circulated automatically around his body. Zhuo shook. The scene in front of him changed, the pictures shattering. The voice that reached into his mind was still pleasant to hear, but had lost its enchanting power. Zhuo was shocked. The people around him all still had dreamy smiles and caused his hairs to stand on end. Such a powerful emo sound. He raised his head and stared hard at the figure. Who was this person? The other seemed to pause slightly in his footsteps, glancing at Zhuo out of the corner of his eyes, but he did not stop and continued to walk forward. The entire street was deathly silent. Everyone had that strange smile on their face. Humph. A cold snort which was not loud rang over Great Peace City like a roar of thunder. The faintly discernible emo sound seemed to have been pushed and instantly dissipated. The people who had been bewitched seemed to wake up. Their faces became ashen. They looked in respect and terror at the man in the snowy white robes. Tao Xing also woke up. When he saw the white-robed male in the center of the street, his expression changed dramatically. Terror rose on his face as he exclaimed, "Qi Diao Yu." Hearing this, Zhuo also reacted and hurriedly asked, "Qi Diao Yu? Why has he come to Great Peace City?" Tao Xing murmured to himself with a white face. Qi Diao Yu's figure had disappeared right as the sound that had enchanted their hearts had also disappeared. The entire street became busy and loud again, but there was still a trace of terror that remained on everyone's faces. Qi Diao Yu is one of the most famous experts right now. He reached the peak of general level when he was 23. In search of a breakthrough, he came to Great Peace City. In the 1 year he was here, he challenged and defeated many heroes. Then he disappeared. I had not expected him to return to Great Peace City again. Tao Xing had a reminiscing expression. That was about 3 years ago. Now Great Peace City will be busy. So strong. Zhuo sighed. Even he had been caught just now. The other's power was immeasurable. He really is powerful. He also came out of nowhere and has a mysterious background. Even now, no one knows what family he belongs to. Pang Chen, the person you killed, became famous because he managed to withstand 30 of Qi Diao Yu's moves before being defeated. You can imagine just how powerful Qi Diao Yu was back then. An expression of respect came onto Tao Xing's face. He's even more powerful than before. Zhuo's expression was grave. He did not know how great Qi Diao Yu's power was now, but he believed that if Pang Chen once again fought Qi Diao Yu, he would not survive one move. Even the pressure that the old thieving Baldi Dingzhen had given Zhuo was not as strong as Qi Diao Yu. Qi Diao Yu had not purposely released that sound. That was just the weak ripples of power leaking out from the water droplets. The after effects were already so strong. If the other used their full power, how terrifying would it be? Zhuo was not sure how many of the other's moves he would be able to withstand. This was the strongest MO that Zhuo had encountered until now. He went to the MO skill steals. Zhuo suddenly said. Let's go to the MO skills steals tomorrow, Tao Xing hurriedly said. Zhuo's expression suddenly changed. Damn it, A1 is still at the MO skills steals. As he spoke, he leapt into the air and sprinted towards the MO skills steals. He was extremely panicked. A1, do not provoke this demon. At a full sprint, he was extremely fast, and in a blink, he reached the Mo skill steels. When he arrived, he instantly sighed in relief. Demon Chi's figure had disappeared into the deeper regions of the steel forest. It seemed that his goal should be the Mo skill steels at the very end. Wen was sitting with a dazed expression under a different stone steel. This guy was having an epiphany again. Mo paused and didn't know to laugh or cry. He then sighed in wonder. Wen's talent was really outstanding. He had sent the other people to copy the contents of what was on the Mo skill steel so everyone would have a copy, but up until now, the only one who had an epiphany was Wen. Even more shocking was that this was his second epiphany. Mo was becoming slightly jealous. He had comprehended a lot from the Mo skill steels, but he had not entered the state of epiphany. This guy had entered it 2 times. Mo shook his head and smiled. His anxiety settling down, he started to read once again. His speed of progression was very fast. Even if he encountered a problem, he would understand after some thought. Right now, he had the strength of a general level, and he could examine the problems from a deeper level of power. He naturally solved these problems easily. The Mo skill steels quickly resumed their normal levels of activity. Qi Diaoyu went into the deepest part of the steel forest and did not affect the people reading on the outer regions. The busy flows of people appeared again. Mo's steps gradually slowed. As he went deeper, the content on the stone steels became harder to understand. He needed to slowly think and ponder over their lessons. As he went deeper, there were fewer people around him. Mo's surprise increased. He found something unique about the Mo skill steels. Starting from the 22nd Mo skill steel, the content on the steel was not just limited to Mo skills. He found many descriptions on it that were similar to spells and Yao arts. At the beginning, he had thought this was a coincidence, but as similarities in the content increased, he found to his shock this was not a coincidence. Spells, Yao arts, Mo skills, Mo had learned all 3 areas before. Even though his cultivation of spells was not outstanding, he had read many jade scrolls and his fundamental knowledge was deep. As to the Yao arts, while they were not as outstanding as his Mo skills, he was able to cast the archaic wasteland sacrificial art and could be called an expert in the Yao world. This meant that he did not face too many barriers when he reached lessons on these areas, but he couldn't help but feel puzzled. Had Shi Ziming been skilled in the 3 powers? As he went deeper, this puzzlement increased. Shi Ziming's theories, no matter if it was spells, Yao arts, or Mo skills, were accurate and profound. Even a freak like Mo that was skilled in all 3 felt it was difficult to understand in many places. Was there really someone in the world that was born knowing this? At a corner not far from the Mo skill steels. Which steel he at now? A pointy-faced man lowered his voice to ask. But his gaze did not leave Mo, who was in front of the stone steel. 26th. His fellow with purple hair and a black face gave an accurate answer. Is this guy just looking around? The pointy-faced man said hesitantly. This speed is slightly fast. Slightly fast? It is too fast. The purple-haired man said coldly. Yes, to reach and read the 26th Mo skill steel, it is not possible, the pointy-faced man said unconcernedly. Has he discovered that we are watching him? Who says it is not possible? You forgot that person, the purple-haired man said. Who? The pointy-haired man asked. The one in there. The purple-haired man pushed his lips towards the deepest part of the steel forest. Did you forget what that person did in the past? Hiss. The pointy-faced man inhaled sharply and his face paled. How can I forget? In 1 day and night, comprehended 30 pieces of the stone steel, that speed had been something no one else achieved before and no one else since. It is true that no one did it before him, but it's not certain that there is no one else after him. The purple-haired man stared attentively at Mo and said to himself, I have a feeling that this Xiao Mo Gu is not an average person. You don't think he's just strolling by? The pointy-faced man said in disbelief. No. The purple-haired man said, "Notice how long he is spending in front of every steel. The deeper the steel is, the longer he spends on it. He has spent more than 2 hours in front of this skill steel. He is clearly thinking, and not just glancing at the content. Then isn't he?" The pointy-faced man stammered. Just like how Qi Diao Yu was in the past, the purple-haired man said the second half of his fellow's sentence. He had been stationed at Great Peace City for more than a decade. His daily task for the family was extremely dull. It was to observe the MO that were studying at the stone steels. Normal people would not notice these details, but they could estimate many things from these details. In his eyes, the effects of Zhuo Mo's speed in going through the stone steels was more shocking than defeating Pang Chen. The purple-haired man stopped talking. His eyes flashed with a different light as he stared at Zhuo Mo that was in deep thought in front of the steel. He had a strong feeling that another powerful person was going to appear in Great Peace City. Focusing, he said to his fellow, "Quick, report this to the main steward." The pointy-faced man did not dare to hesitate and disappeared into the shadows. The purple-haired man's eyes suddenly turned in another direction of shadow within the steel forest. Right there, just now, another figure had flashed by. His eyes instantly narrowed. Without thinking, he knew who it was. An old opponent. There were also other observers in the other shadows. All of them had come. It seemed that everyone had great expectations for this person. Chapter 579, Bodhisattvas Raging Lotus. Their battlefield spanned hundreds of li. Blinding balls of light in various colors lit up the sky. The sound of explosions and sharp howls continued constantly. Sword energies, spells, talismans, lights of various colors were like rainbows as countless figures in battle formations flashed between the waves of light, chasing, fighting, all kinds of moves. People were occasionally crushed into dust, or fell from the sky into the cloud sea. This was especially with the fighting between the Jindan of both sides, where one full-powered attack could create balls of light that were dozens of mu in size. They were like miniature suns. The rampaging wave of air spreading into all directions. One side wanted to end as soon as possible. The other pressed the offense as their defense. From the beginning, the fighting was at a high-intensity level. Feng Yu quickly felt the pressure of the enemy attack. They had expected a quick collapse of the other's forces shortly after initial contact. The other was like a glue that stayed on them. The other's strength was not high and their fighting methods were not outstanding. In her view, they were scattered and disorganized. But such a chaotic troop had fought them here for an hour and were not at a disadvantage. Why was it like this? She knew that her combat shio were exhausted from their trip and knew that the other had more people, but in her view these factors should not have been enough to delay their progress. Their collective strength was a whole level higher, they were better trained, and they had more combat experience. In her experience, they should be cleaning up the battlefield right now rather than fighting at a standstill. Feng Yu forced herself to calm down. She felt unused to Jiangzhi's absence, but her training and experience quickly showed itself. She examined the battlefield. Lei Peng's eyes were bloodshot from bloodlust. He was the sharpest blade of Black Turtle Camp. That door-size gold crystal sword caused all talismans to shatter wherever it passed. In this moment, he seemed undefeatable. They were like a burning hot rod of metal piercing through a piece of butter. The two sides had fought to a battle of attrition. Ma Fan's eyes were not relaxed like usual but were as sharp as an eagle. The situation right now was very beneficial for them. Black Turtle Camp was at full strength and they had the advantage of numbers. Choosing a battle of attrition was very appropriate for them. The longer they managed to drag out the fight, the more beneficial it would be for them. Black Turtle Camp had just been created. It was fine when the momentum of the fighting was in their favor. But if the other's presence was too strong, their morale, in all likelihood, would crumble. A chaotic battle like this suited their utilization of microtactics. As expected, after the panic of their first battle passed, Black Turtle Camp quickly adjusted. The tactics that Ma Fan had designed had a clear speciality. That is, each little team's tactic was designed around a core member. Those that were the core members were either members of Sky Peak Platoon or very experienced combat show. As long as the tactical core of each team was not panicked, the entire team would be stabilized. These core's members did not fail Ma Fan's trust. They quickly steadied their team, their members found their resolve, and they became even stronger. On the chaotic battlefield, the Shouja of the Black Turtle Camp were becoming more and more at ease. In the past, the combat show of Sky Peak Platoon had been handpicked by Lil Mississippi. The great majority of them were in now Jindan, and their daily training regimen was much harder than normal combat show. For a very long time in the past, Sky Peak Platoon had been the sharpest knife in Lil Miss' hand. Each of them were elite members that had been through many battles. Even when facing the Jindan of the other camp, they were not at a disadvantage. Feng Yui quickly discovered Ma Fan's plan to draw her into a battle of attrition. Her brow creased and she said in a cold voice, "Do not linger in battle. Reorganize for a charge using a battle formation." The Xian Kong Temple combat show systematically disengaged from their opponents. Their speed was extremely fast and the combat show of Black Turtle Camp could not keep up. The talismans that Turtle Island combat show had were good, but that was only in comparison with an average faction. When compared with a great entity like Xian Kong Temple, they were very lacking. Feng Yu swept the enemy with a glance. In such a short amount of time, she had lost about 100 people. Even though the other sides had definitely suffered more losses, she still felt fury. She had been forced into a standstill against a troop like this. This could not be forgiven. Feng Yu's eyes turned icy. The combat show gathered around her. Everyone looked at her and waited for her orders. Feng Yu took a deep breath and raised her right hand. Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation. The eyes of the combat show lit up. They moved closer to each other and their low morale quickly rose. Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation. One of the classic battle formations of Xian Kong Temple which possessed shocking power in its charge. In the battle over Cold Mountain Jia, the formation that Jiang Zhe had used the most was the Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation. Under the Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation, even the domineering Mo had turned to ash. The Fire Lotus was unparalleled. Each of the four great sects had their own unique battle tactics that formed their own systems. But in terms of offensive charge strength, Kun Lun's Transverse Leap Sword Battle Formation, Tian Huan's Celestial Will Battle Formation, Shi Xian's Flowing Gold Battle Formation, and Xian Kong Temple's Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation were the strongest. Red snakes of fire burned and coiled around the arms of every Xian Kong Temple combat show. The other side was shrinking back. This movement caused them to feel excited. When Ma Fan saw the other side's combat show withdraw from their battles, he knew the other had discovered his intentions. However, he had expected this. He used Lei Peng's charge to push into the other's troops in order to force them into a battle of attrition. As long as the other side's battle general was not stupid, he believed the other would eventually respond to this tactic. Would a battle general from Xian Kong Temple be stupid? He did not believe it. However, he was slightly shocked at the other's quick response. He knew that the true battle had just begun. The greenhorns of Black Turtle Camp had started to adjust to the rhythm of the battlefield. After this, they would be able to tolerate more pressure and their morale would not crumble so easily. They are going to charge. It should be the Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus. Nian Lu's eyes narrowed as he panted lightly. He had been fighting intensely with a Jindan just now. Ma Fan nodded. He also recognized it. Ever since they had learned they would fight against Xian Kong Temple, they had collected intelligence on the battle tactics of Xian Kong Temple. Naturally, Ma Fan had read them. He licked his lips and a cold light flashed through his eyes. Have everyone prepare. I hadn't thought that this great gift would be for them. They are really lucky. Nian Lu snickered and went back to prepare. Black Turtle Camp quickly formed a circular formation that looked just the same as the average defensive formation. Pay attention. All of you, pay attention. Listen. Do not panic. Just do what we usually practice. Don't look at them, they are trying to scare you. There's nothing big, didn't we just kill 100 of them just now? Every experienced combat Shio was trying to raise the morale of their fellows. They had only ever practiced this battle formation in training and had never used it in real battle. This battle formation was something that Ma Fan had spent great time and effort to create. His initial goal was to be able to stop the 3-section wave killing charge of Vermilion Bird Camp. Even though it could theoretically stop it, because he never used it outside of practice, Ma Fan was not very confident. However, since the other was using an offensive formation, then this battle formation was the most suited to be used against it. All of this is for you. Ma Fan stared hard at the other side. His expression when he licked his lips was like a wolf in the middle of a hunt. He was slightly anxious, but his expression revealed he was more excited. At this moment, the other moved. In the sky, thousands of lines of fire appeared like a storm of fire. The howls rumbled and the cloud sea shook. The snakes of fire wrapped around the arms of every Xian Kong Temple combat Shio suddenly grew multiple times. What was most shocking were those Jindan Shouja. Their right arms were completely enveloped under the burning flames. The color of their fire was deeper than normal combat Shio, and the sound caused by their flames was not loud, but extremely deep and stunning to the mind. They accelerated, accelerated, accelerated. The roar increased. The terrifying wave of air was like a huge axe that cleaved apart the cloud sea under them, forming in stunning sight as the fire cut an expanding wave through the cloud sea. The Jindan Shouja at the very front had a completely red face. A long tail streaked off the flames on his arms. His pupils suddenly contracted as he shouted angrily, "Rage!" His right fist that was pulled behind his body punched forward with all of his power. Rage! The combat Shio behind him shouted and punched in unison. Almost 1,000 fiery red fist energies left their hands. Like fire dragons charging out of the cage, they howled and leapt forward. The closer to the rear the fist energies were, the faster the energies were. Starting from the last fiery fist energy, they continued to collide into the flames ahead of them and then into the ones further ahead. The layers of collisions formed a bigger and bigger fiery fist energy. It was like a flame monster that continuously cannibalized its fellows to grow larger. In a flash, the fiery fist energies formed into one enormous fireball. The surface of the fireball constantly shifted. It was possible to faintly discern an enormous figure that was trailing a long tail of flame. Inside the ball of fire, the enormous figure grew clearer. Its features sharpened, the flames on the surface melting like ice. A furious face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. There seemed to be an invisible hand that was sculpting these scorching flames. Bam! Like the crack of glass, the flames outside the ball of fire dispersed to sparks and dissipated in the wind. Among the spray of sparks, an angrily Bodhisattva 30 zhang tall shot into the air. His right hand was holding a bright red fire lotus that was multiple times larger than his body. Like a meteor, it shot towards Black Turtle Camp that had shrunk into a circle. In this moment, the sky seemed to turn red from the burning flames. The cloud sea underneath their feet drastically crumbled. The angry eyes of the flame lotus Bodhisattva were indifferent as though he was staring down at ants. Ma Fan did not dare to breathe. He started hard at the charging fire lotus Bodhisattva, a crazy expression rising in his eyes. Suddenly, his pupils expanded. His flying sword which had already been raised sliced down with all his might. Kill! Chapter 580, Arcing Rainbow Battle Formation. There was a ball of light in each member of Black Turtle Camp's hand. The colors were different and from afar, it seemed that many lanterns of different colors had been lit. But if one looked closely, they would find to their shock that these lanterns of different colors were arranged in layers, one over the other. There were more than 36 layers that had formed an irregular curve. When Ma Fan's shout of "kill" sounded, all the Xiuzha in the outermost layer of troops unhesitatingly threw out the balls of light in their hands in unison. Woo! An arc of light that was like a rainbow suddenly flew out of the circular formation and headed towards the Bodhisattva's fire lotus. Woo woo woo! The howls sounded, and the arcs of light fit together in layers. They were densely packed, and in a tenth of a breath, 36 arcs of light were released. The color of each light arc was different. 36 colored arcs of different colors folded over each other and formed an even more varied rainbow. Arcing rainbow battle formation. This was the defensive formation that Ma Fan had created for Black Turtle Camp. For this formation, he had spent a great deal of time, spending extreme amounts of effort and made countless trips to Golden Crow Camp. The moment this blinding rainbow arc formed, unprecedented excitement spread into every fiber of Ma Fan's muscles. His body uncontrollably trembled. Everyone could not attend to their rest. They unconsciously stopped breathing. No one would know how much they had suffered to train this battle formation to completion or how much punishment they had endured. Each person, from Ma Fan to the newest combat show of the camp, had repeatedly practiced. That blinding beautiful rainbow was just as difficult to form as it was beautiful. 36 arcs of light. If one of them was incorrectly formed, it would mess up the other arcs of light and disperse the light in a burst of fireworks that had no effect. The Bodhisattva seemed to feel danger. It gave a sky-shaking howl, his hands holding up the lotus and smashing it down. The rainbow was like a wind that swept across the sky and silently appeared in front of the Bodhisattva. The fresh red flame. The blindingly beautiful rainbow. The two collided. The light that was produced pierced the world, but none of the Jindan Xiuzha blinked. They stared with wide eyes, afraid to miss a single detail. The first light arc shattered. The second light arc shattered. The 10th light arc cracked. The 11th light arc cracked. The 18th arc of light stopped the fire losu. The Rage Lotus Bodhisattva shouted angrily, throwing himself into the fire lotus. The fire lotus exploded, breaking the arc of light. The 23rd arc of light. The fire lotus seemed to now be planted on this arc of light, as if it was grown there as decoration. No matter how it moved, the arc of light did not budge. Boom! The fire lotus suddenly exploded. The blinding red light suddenly lit up in a patch of burning white light. Even the Jindan had to close their eyes. The 24th layer shattered. The 25th layer shattered. The 27th layer held and did not retreat a sliver. The rampaging waves of hot air flowed along the curved surface of the arcs and vented towards the two sides. The Jindan under Feng Yu's command had pale faces. The strong backlash from their failed attack had instantly wounded them. Some Xiuzha of lower cultivation spat out blood and fell forward. Their teammates hurriedly grabbed hold of them. However, the faces of these Xiuzha were red from overexertion. They clearly would not be able to survive. But no one cared about this. Everyone was staring at that arc of light that seemed gossamer thin with dazed expressions. It had been stopped. How was it possible? How could the Bodhisattva's raging lotus be stopped? Feng Yu looked dazedly at that beautiful rainbow air, her face filled with disbelief. No one knew better than she did the power of the Bodhisattva's raging lotus. She believed that even the other three great sects could not so easily stop the Bodhisattva's raging lotus. This had been stopped. After staring dazedly for a few breaths, Feng Yu suddenly reacted and her face paled. The Bodhisattva's raging lotus was powerful, but it had a weakness. It was too fierce. If it was stopped, it easily caused severe backlash. But because it was usually unstoppable, this flaw was not usually remembered. Until now. This weakness exposed. Feng Yu looked around and felt even worse. About half of the combat Shio were wounded. For the first time, she stared at the other side as though she just met them. She almost bit through her lips. An unknown battalion, from an unknown Jie. Even now, she did not know what the other battalion was called. But a battalion like this had stopped the Bodhisattva's raging lotus battle formation that shook all of the four realms. She stared hard at the other as though she wanted to imprint them in her mind. Ha 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 ha. I just knew. I just knew. What's there to be afraid of? Lei Peng's loud voice could be heard from a distance. His expression was tired but he was very excited. Nian Lu also had a big smile on his face. His handsome face looked now like that of a child. Excitement was on Ma Fan's face but he could not manage to say a word. He was too excited, really too excited, unprecedentedly excited. The arcing rainbow battle formation was his masterpiece. He knew that he was not an outstanding battle general, but since Lil Miss Darren had given him control of Black Turtle Camp, he could never fail the others' hopes. The shouja of different types, the various spells, he had used shocking patience to slowly merge them into one. There were no complex tactics, but an astounding number of micro-tactics. He might have thought of the arcing rainbow battle formation but the one who perfected it was Golden Crow Camp. He knew his own limits. He knew that Black Turtle Camp, based on their composition, would not be able to fight offensively and dominate like Vermilion Bird Camp. What he had trained Black Turtle Camp for were battles of attrition and defense. He slowly pulled and pushed this Black Turtle Camp together by the skin of his teeth. There was nothing that could excite him, the creator, more than having Black Turtle Camp show its power. But at this time, he suppressed the excitement inside. He observed the other side. When he saw the other side's low morale and wounded shouja, he instantly sighed in relief. This was the debut battle of the arcing rainbow battle formation. Everyone, including him, did not hold anything back in reserve. Right now, they were pretty much at the end of their rope. Fortunately, both sides were close to exhaustion. The two troops strangely held the standoff. Both sides had the same plan. They were waiting for the reinforcements from their fellows. In Ma Fan's mind, Vermilion Bird Camp was invincible. If Vermilion Bird Camp came, they could kill this battalion even if it was double this size. In Feng Yu's mind, Gao Xian was leading 500 members of the Jiangzi Battalion, the core battalion of Xian Kong Temple. Even if the enemy battalion was multiple times this size, 500 Jiangzi Battalion members could kill them all. Suddenly, Ma Fan and Feng Yu showed expressions of joy at the same time. Almost at the same time, two battalions appeared behind their respective fellows. Vermilion Bird Camp. Jiangzi Battalion. Lil Miss gaze swept the battlefield and instantly gleaned a general idea of the situation. He gave Ma Fan a look of praise. But when his gaze landed on the other battalion, his gaze suddenly turned icy and his smile grew. When he found that there were only 500 people in the reinforcements, Lil Miss pride came. Wei Ran. This subordinate is here. Wei Ran hurriedly said. Pick 500 and go meet them. Lil Miss' smile was like a flower, his voice filled with pride and iciness. Yes. Wei Ran's expression was normal as he responded. A battalion of 500 people quickly separated out of Vermilion Bird Camp. When Gao Xian looked at he unharmed Feng Yu, he instantly sighed in relief. But when he looked closely, he was shocked. It seemed that Feng Yu had suffered a significant loss. Their morale was low and almost half of the combat show were injured. Narrowing his eyes, coldness flashed through Gao Xian's eyes. When had Xian Kong Temple ever lost so severely? He did not say anything. The entire troop flowed into position front of Feng Yu's battalion like mercury. His expression was normal and steady as he stared at the other side. There was no change in expression. But when he noticed a battalion of approximately the same size approach their ranks, his gaze suddenly turned sharp. Even as composed as he was, he couldn't help but feel slight anger. When had Jiangzi Battalion been disrespected so? The Jiangzi Battalion always fought with less against many. They could fly in and out among enemies multiple times their number and they were unstoppable. When had the enemy used the same number of people to fight Jiangzi Battalion? Those ignorant had no fear. Gao Xian's heart was cold and murderousness spread. Wei Ran looked calmly at the other side. He was one of the commanders that had followed Lil Mis for the longest time. Unlike Ma Fan, he did not show great talent in the beginning, but following Lil Mis he had learned as he fought in battle. His talent as a battle general was like the jade encased in stone that was gradually exposed. Lil Mis' judgment of him was that he had the style of a great general. Of course, with Lil Mis' crazy personality, he couldn't help but feel Wei Ran was slightly gentle, but this did not affect Wei Ran's position in Vermilion Bird Camp. Wei Ran had participated from start to finish in establishing the new tactical plan. Even though he could not compare to Lil Mis that understood Xiuzha, Yao, and Nemo, other than Lil Mis no one understood the new tactics better than he did. Also, his gaze landed on Ma Fan and he couldn't help but feel a thread of admiration. For any battle general, being able to create a battalion based on their own fighting style was an unparalleled temptation. Wei Ran moved his gaze away. He looked towards the enemy. He could see that the other's troop was the elite of elite, but without knowing it, the fighting spirit burning inside him and boiled his blood. The fighting spirit in his eyes was no disguised any longer. This battle, he had to win. Chapter 581, Shifting Star Sans Sua Mo was immersed in reading. Shi Ziming was an uncanny genius. He had never cultivated but his knowledge of power was exceptionally accurate. In his descriptions, the fundamentals of each system were clearly described and Zua Mo gained a lot. It was the first time that the three power systems were so clear in Zua Mo's mind. In the past, he had spent a lot of effort training the three powers but had never put them together. The three formed their own systems, and there were many branches in technique to each. Spells, Yao arts, Mo skills, which one did not have millions of techniques? Not to mention identifying the roots of all three powers, just identifying the roots of one system was difficult. The variations of each system were like the branching veins of the leaf, there was the primary branch and the secondary branches within that system. Those that could gain perspective and identify the primary branches were the top experts. And to understand this with all three powers, who could do that? Looking at the soaring stone steels, Zua Mo couldn't help but feel as though he was staring at a tall mountain. If this was written by someone unparalleled in strength, Zua Mo would not be so shocked. But Mo that did not cultivate any Mo skill could see all the profound mysteries. This talent, even 300 years later, was something that was astounding. Zua Mo had the deepest impression of Shi Ziming's description of the three powers. Because he cultivated Shen power, the three powers in his body were merged into one and were connected to each other. He already had a slight understanding of the connection between the three. His understanding was very vague. When he saw Shi Ziming's description of the connection, it was like a great bell and he understood many things. Great joy came from the bottom of his heart. He stared at the stone tablet, his mind was unusually clear. The three powers inside his body flowed and moved. It was midnight now. The firmament above his head was filled with a sea of stars. In the corner, the purple-haired man's face was filled with incredulity as he murmured to himself. The 32nd steel. The 32nd steel. He turned his face to look at the deepest part of the steel forest. He suddenly had a thought. The two people that had advanced the fastest through the great peace Mo skill steels had appeared at the same time. Was their fate involved? That year, he had watched as Qi Diao Yu walked into the Mo skill steels. Now, there was another youth that broke Qi Diao Yu's record. Many memories surged up and he sighed. But he knew, this was a night without rest for all the powers of Great Peace City. No faction would not act to try and recruit such a talented genius. At this time, a ray of starlight suddenly came down from the sea of stars and landed on Xiao Mo Gu in front of the stone steel. The ray of light was thick and dots of light sand fell down. Golden light suddenly came from Xiao Mo Gu's body that flickered like fire. Even from far away, the purple-haired man could feel the scorching heat. The star sand's light was not blinding, but among the shine of the stars, it was pretty to look at. The golden light was like a whirlpool that continuously pulled in the star sand. A worldly apparition. The purple-haired man looked in shock at the sky. The vast number of stars were slowly spinning, threads of light forming a ray of light. Such a spectacular scene caused his mind to almost lose control. An unfamiliar and distant term jumped into his mind, shifting star sand. In a deep part of the steel forest, Qi Diaoyu was like an old monk meditating in front of a stone forest. He had maintained this position for more than 12 hours. The indifference on his face had disappeared and what had replaced it was concentration. That proud genius that was unable to be touched had disappeared. Qi Diaoyu at this time was like a normal Mo youth, less of the indifference and more of a gentleness. He suddenly raised his head and his face, one that rarely showed any expression, changed. A ray of light fell from the vast expanse of stars and landed somewhere nearby in the steel forest. Shifting star sand. His eyes lit up and he lightly jumped onto the top of the stone steel. He was instantly able to get a clear view. It was him. A thread of surprise flashed across Qi Diaoyu's eyes. He had some impression of Zuemo. It was the first one to break free from his sound of enchantment when he had entered the city. It was this youth. Gazing for a long time, he was silent. Shifting star sand. When Zuemo had reached the 26th Mo skill steel, all the major factions in Great Peace City had started to secretly pay attention. As time went on and Zuemo advanced, every faction's nerves tightened. When Zuemo broke Qi Diaoyu's past record, Great Peace City was deathly silent but the gazes of the major factions all gathered here. Another peerless genius had appeared. But when the worldly apparition appeared, the Great Peace City which had been having turbulent underflows instantly turned into chaos. Countless people flew into the sky and stared in shock at the pillar of light that came from the sky into the steel forest. A worldly apparition. The Mo that were familiar with this event couldn't help but shouting the unfamiliar words, shifting star sand. Excitement, shock, astonishment, puzzlement mixed on the faces of the Mo. Other than the starlight, the sky above Great Peace City was almost completely black. Almost all the Mo flew into the sky. Lan Tianlong looked at the ray of starlight with a complex expression. He had more avenues of information than normal people and he knew who was causing the worldly apparition. He suddenly felt relieved that he had retreated at the city gates. Before this, he had the idea of recruiting the other, but when the news that the other had broken Qi Diaoyu's record, he sighed inside. A genius of this level was not one that the Lan family could recruit. But when he personally saw Zuemo cause the shifting star sands, while shocked, he couldn't help but snicker. He knew that tomorrow, Great Peace City was going to be busy. Those factions that wanted to recruit this person, tonight. This really was interesting. Yi Ling looked at the stars with an excited expression. All hail the king. Even though he always believed that Darren was someone strong that could become the king, when he personally saw Darren cause a worldly apparition, his body uncontrollably trembled. He raised his head to look at the vast expanse of stars that was slowly spinning with devoutness on his face. In the compound, everyone was gaping. And Zuomo's subordinates all had ecstatic expressions and could not suppress their excitement. Tao Xing, Tang Fei, and the others were stuck dumb where they were with wide gaping mouths. But if one had to be said to be the most shocked, it would be Tsing Lian, or no one knew better than she did what the powers Mo cultivated inside his body was, but... She looked at the ray of starlight that was coming down from the sky with shock in her eyes. He clearly cultivated Sun Shen power, how could he attract the power of the stars? This was not possible. She had originally thought she had seen through Zuemo. She had even seen all of his memory fragments and she also knew of the chaotic power flows inside his body. The Sun Shen power was peerless in its dominance. But this also meant that Sun Shen power strongly rejected other types of power. How could he cause an apparition of the stars? The moment that Zuemo caused the shifting stars sand, Pu Yao jumped up as though his behind was on fire. And Wei, who was usually composed, abruptly stood up. Shifting star sand. The two of them exclaimed at the same time. Pu Yao's bloody pupil was extremely wide as though he was seeing a ghost. The indifference on Wei's face had disappeared to be replaced by shock. This is not possible. How is he doing it? The two exclaimed again. They exchanged a look and found the disbelief in each other's eyes. The two raised their faces. In the sea of consciousness, the star sand fell like snow. When a particle of star sand entered their bodies, their figures would grow a sliver more clear. After a moment of silence, their shock gradually faded from their faces. Pu Yao suddenly thought of the stars in daytime that had appeared in the past. That first worldly apparition had changed Suemo's fate. If it was not for that first stars in daytime, Suemo would have never left Wukong's sword sect. Wei's eyes grew brighter like the stars in night. He really is a genius. Looking at Wei's expression, Pu Yao became wary. He said coldly, "Don't even think about it. Humph, what you're said is, in the end, it is just sending him to die." Wei's expression suddenly changed as he exclaimed, "Not good." The 3 seeds. Pu Yao stilled and then his expression changed drastically. The master of the 3 was Suemo. The Yao art house was empty of people in the deep of night. In a corner of the Yao art house, there was countless dots of star sand that floated like fireflies around the steel. The steel suddenly produced a suction force and the star sand entered the steel. The damaged steel gradually lit up. A weak presence was like ripples in the water, faintly discernible. In a deep cave in a mountain valley, the star sand suddenly traveled through the layers of granite and shrouded the entire black pool. The silent black pool seemed to be awakened from a deep sleep and slowly shifted. Droplets of black liquid continuously broke free of the pool, floated up and accurately caught the star sand like little black insects. The moving black liquid consumed the star sand and dropped back into the black pool. As time passed, a layer of serene starlight flashed on the black pond. In the black pond, a figure slowly floated up. The serene starlight was like a thin membrane that tightly covered the surface of this figure. A presence like that of the water and the moon filled the cave. At a sacrificial altar in the desert, the star sand seemed to be caught by the fierce wind that continuously spun around the sacrificial altar. Dots of star sand entered the sacrificial altar and the patterns of the sacrificial altar started to slowly shift. The sacrificial altar flashed with light. In this black and remote desert, it was blindingly bright like an enormous star. At the center of the sacrificial altar, black figures roiled. Threads of starlight flashed in and out. The starlight seemed to melt into the black shadows like threads of ice. The black shadows were dyed with a slight layer of starlight. A deep roar came out of the black shadows. Chapter 582, Honing their blades. When the stars shifted, they would produce a vast amount of pure star power. This power would turn to star sand and enter the bodies of people. This sand was like the sand that people used to hone blades. Star sand could be used to refine the bodies of these people from the inside to the out to perfect it. This was the shifting star sands, one of the most famous worldly apparitions. The light of the stars was not as domineering and burning as the light of the sun, nor as soft as the light of the moon. The stars were like sand and were the best power to hone the body. However, causing this worldly apparition was a matter of chance. In reality, even now, no one understood how to cause a worldly apparition. But everyone knew that if a person caused a worldly apparition during cultivation, they would be an extraordinary person. Zuemo did not know that all of Great Peace City was now exploding in excitement because of him. He was immersed in a wondrous world. There seemed to countless stars slowly moving around him. A power that seemed both familiar and unfamiliar continuously permeated his body. Zuemo recognized it. That was star sand. Each particle of star sand was extremely hard. With their sharp edges, they slowly advanced and moved in. Zuemo felt there seemed to be sandpaper slowly smoothing out his unrefined flesh and blood. There was no pain, but an indescribably comfortable feeling. It was intoxicating. There was a faint smile on Gong Sun Cha's face. No one knew what he was thinking. Everyone beside him had extremely serious faces. They stared at the battlefield and didn't dare to move their eyes away. Because Wei Ran was losing. The strength of the others' battle tactics surpassed their imagination. When the dozens of brigadier levels had been merged into Vermilion Bird Camp and they started using the new tactics, everyone had been full of confidence. In the practice spars inside the camp, the power of their new tactics was multiple times as strong as their previous 3-section wave-killing charge. Many people had been rubbing their hands eagerly, wanting to find a Jia Gu and having another battle. When Lil Miss had Wei Ran decided to face the enemy with equal numbers, no one had objected. They knew that Lil Miss wanted to test the new tactics. Everyone was filled with confidence and anticipation. They believed that Wei Ran would definitely win. Yet the reality was so cruel. This little battalion of 500 was unusually powerful. At the beginning, the two were evenly matched, but as time went on, the balance slowly tilted and Wei Ran was on the losing end. What caused their expressions to turn serious was that Wei Ran had not made any mistakes. Even so, his advantage was slowly slipping away. This was occurring at an extremely slow rate, but everyone had experienced hundreds of fights and could see this. There was still a faint small smile on Lil Miss' face that was as bashful as that of the neighbor's boy. No one knew what he was thinking. Feng Yu looked dazedly at the battlefield. She could see that Gao Xian was slowly gaining the advantage, but she was still shocked. No, it was amazed. She had been shocked when her Rage Lotus Bodhisattva had been stopped. But what this scene in front of her gave was fear. This was Jiangxi Battalion. The battalion that had killed countless MO and just taken over Cold Mountain Jie. Every Jiangxi Battalion member had been picked with care. They had outstanding talent and above-average resolve. The troop had been formed after extremely difficult training. She had seen how this battalion had been created with her own eyes. In her mind, this was the strongest battalion in the world. The matter had been as she had expected. This battalion that Jiangxi had spent such effort to create came out like a peerless sword that intimidated the world. The Battle of Cold Mountain Jie had pushed this steely battalion to a new level. Even the Shishu that came to reinforce them were full of praise. Jiangxi Battalion's status in the sect had continued to rise. Everyone believed that unless they encountered the core battalions of the other 3 great sects or the top battalions of the Yama, Jiangxi Battalion could dominate all other battalions. Yet the scene in front of them made this thought a joke. Cloud Si Jia was not one of the Great 4, not one of the Great 10, not one of the Great 100. In this shoujo world, this Cloud Si Jia was unranked. But in this little remote corner, a battalion appeared that could match the Jiangxi Battalion. This was such a terrifying matter. Feng Yu suddenly realized to her shock just how little they knew of the world. She raised her head and looked into the distance. Her heart filled with terror when she looked at the majority of enemy troops that were standing there. If the remainder also joined. Her face became ashen. Gao Xian's expression became increasingly grave. He had expected this battalion to be a strong enemy, but he had not expected the other to be so strong as to reach a standstill with him. The other's fighting method was very strange, and the composition of the battalion was also very strange. He actually found MO among them. When he first saw them, he had thought his eyes were deceiving him. But the MO skills the other used, their unreasonable charges, caused him to shake. In the Battle of Cold Mountain Jie, he had seen too many MO and was very familiar with them. This was definitely a MO, and a Brigadier MO. This wasn't one of them, but 10. All of them were Brigadier level. He felt this was extremely absurd. A group of MO participating in a shoujo battalion? And it was a group of Brigadier MO? What kind of joke was this? What he felt even more impossible to comprehend was that he couldn't detect any Jinji on their bodies. Were these shoujo in an alliance with the Yama? When this thought appeared, the coldness inside him grew. It had to be said that Gao Xian's abilities were very outstanding for Jiang Zhe to put such responsibilities on him. After the initial probing rounds, Gao Xian had gradually gotten used to the other's strange tactics and started to take back the advantage. His advantage was increasing, but the other was astoundingly hardy. Even though they were at a disadvantage, they did not panic. Suddenly, Gao Xian felt the pressure that the other gave him was slowly increasing. He quickly found that the other's cooperation between tactics was becoming smoother and more natural, the flaws smaller and the power greater. Gao Xian stilled. Thinking back to the rawness of the other's tactics just recently, his heart suddenly sank. He finally understood what the other's intentions were. The other was using him to test new battle tactics. Do you all see and understand? Lil Miss' warm voice passed into everyone's ears. Yes. Everyone's heart shook, but what was in their eyes was excitement. As expected, real combat was better than anything else for training. The stronger the other felt, the more they could test their tactics. This battalion from Xiankong Temple was like a hard whetstone that was slowly honing them. When Wei Ran slowly climbed back from his disadvantage, everyone felt their blood slowly started to burn. This was a battalion from Xiankong Temple. Vermilion Bird Camp had enough to be proud of to force a battalion from the four great sects to such a position. Lil Miss smiled faintly. The face like that of the neighbor's boy was filled with bashfulness. He said lightly, "Go, do not like even one escape." The people responded in unison. Murderousness spread. Vermilion Bird Camp was like a flood that lost all restraint and advanced. Jiang Zhe felt unfocused. He walked out of the room. The night wind blew past his face. He instantly felt his mind clear and laughed silently. Gao Xian was leading 500 members of the Jiangzi battalion. Even though he would not be able to take revenge for Ding Zhenshushu personally, there definitely would not be a problem keeping Feng Yu safe in her revenge. He put his attention was focused on the counterattack from the MO that was coming. According to the information from their spies, the MO were allying, and forming an enormous troop to take back Cold Mountain Jie. Thinking about this, Jiang Zhe's eyes became cold. He had prepared some gifts for the other to come fight them. He was filled with hope. Suddenly, a subordinate stumbled as he flew in. Duh. Darren. The Diana Tower, the Diana Tower. Jiang Zhe's heart jumped and his expression suddenly became cold. He said in a deep voice, "What about the Diana Tower?" Stimulated by Jiang Zhe's presence, this subordinate's mind suddenly cleared and his words flowed. But his voice was still trembling. "Feng Yu Darren and Gao Xian Darren's candles have gone out." The blood inside Jiang Zhe froze and his limbs felt cold. Suemo had never felt so comfortable. The star sand continuously honed every piece of muscle, every piece of bone, every one of his tendons. In this tempering process, a portion of the star sand merged into his blood and flesh, causing them to become perfect. Other than perfect, Suemo could not find a better word to describe it. The three powers circulated endlessly inside his body. They all had their own systems, but they also affected each other. The content of the MO skill steels flowed across his mind. The circulating three powers were continuously adjusted. They became even more harmonious and gained even more affinity. Suomo's mind was unusually clear. Each thought was carried out as though every piece of muscle and blood in his body was under his control. Unprecedented confidence filled every corner of his body. Suemo quickly found that the star sand that entered his body seemed to be attracted and was gathering towards the Sun Mo matrix at the center of his chest. As Suemo's blood, flesh, bones, and sinews were honed, the speed that the star sand came in increased. In the end, it became streaks of starlight. These starlight continuously flowed into the Sun Mo matrix at the center of Suemo's chest. Boom! Suemo felt that the Sun Mo matrix at his chest seemed to be broken open. Someone appeared in his mind. This was. Suemo slowly savored it and did not detect that there was no more star sand entering his body. A long time later. A golden light flashed and disappeared from the sun mo matrix at his forehead. He slowly opened his eyes. When Zhuo recovered clarity, the scene in front of him left him dumbstruck where he stood. Under the vast sky of stars, Mo filled the sky above Great Peace City like an endless black cloud. But why are they all staring at me? Chapter 583, Ripple's Silence. A deathly silence. Countless pairs of eyes moved to stare at Zhuo, who opened his eyes. The enormous Great Peace City was so silent the drop of a pin on the ground could be heard. The sky was deep and dark, the chilling night wind blew. Zhuo felt slightly uncertain at being stared by so many pairs of eyes. The scene was strangely silent. Zhuo, who already did not know what was going on, did not dare to speak rashly. However, Zhuo, who felt uncomfortable at being stared at, really could not suppress it. He coughed. The time isn't early, everyone, go to sleep early. Finishing, he waved his hand and pulled Shu Long and the others over in a flash to prepare to flee. These people had such strange expressions. Glancing his eyes across Shu Long and the others, Zhuo felt very weird. But at this time, there was no time to think carefully as he sprinted. The Mo along his way automatically moved to give him a path. The expressions of these people were so strange. Zhuo felt even worse. He unconsciously swallowed and didn't dare to stop. Mr. Xiao Mo Gu, will you be free tomorrow? This one represents the Baudelin family, and sincerely invites Sir to attend the evening party tomorrow night. In the silent night, this voice was unusually clear. It was like a spark thrown into a pot of hot oil. Great Peace City that had been deathly silent exploded. The representatives from all the other families seemed to wake up and extended branches of friendship. Mr. Xiao Mo Gu. This one represents the Werlicke family. This one is wondering if there is the good fortune to invite Mr. Xiao Mo Gu to a gathering at the compound. This one represents the Almond family. Mr. Xiao Mo Gu. Auburn family. The wave of sounds caused Zhuo's mind, which had been puzzled in the first place, to blank. His expression became even more dazed. The pitiful little Mo Gu did not have any of his usual dominance. He was like a frightened lamb that started to sprint even faster. Even now, he did not understand. What was going on with these people? What had happened? Lan Tianlong, who had been watching the spectacle and saw Zhuo's sorry state, instantly roared in laughter. He felt the scene occurring in front of him was extremely amusing. This Xiao Mo Gu was a funny person. Just like him, many people grinned, but more people sank into deep thought. In the night, the lights glowing from their eyes were like bright stars. Qi Diaoye's figure was standing on the stone steel like a sword. He stared with a cold gaze at Zhuo's figure in thoughtfulness. As Zhuo left, the crowd slowly dissipated, but heated discussion filled every corner of Great Peace City. It was a fresh experience for the majority of people to personally see a worldly apparition. They discussed the turning stars, the vast star power, and speculated about Zhuo's Mo physique. This was a busy night. If killing Pang Chen had caused Zhuo to appear in the view of the public, then the shifting star sand worldly apparition caused everyone to remember the name of Xiao Mo Gu. Another genius had appeared. Jiang Zhe stood in front of the Diana Tower and looked in a daze at two extinguished oil lamps inside the tower. His warm eyes were full of sorrow and he felt as though someone was carving out his heart. That beautiful figure that always thought herself the big sister and was never polite to him would never be seen again. Starting from when he decided to create a battalion that belonged to him, Feng Yu had accompanied him and helped him take care of those tedious but necessary matters. After so many years, he was used to having her by his side. But he would never see her again. Darren, the Mo Alliance army has started to gather, the subordinate reported from outside the door. Jiang Zhi's fist balled tightly, the joints turning white. His usually warm pupils were as vicious and brutal as a wild beast. He stared hard at the two extinguished lanterns. A moment later, he relaxed his fists and the savagery in his eyes disappeared. His gaze became warm again. Have everyone start to prepare. We will proceed according to the original plan. The warm voice was just the same as usual. The subordinate at the door sighed in relief and his expression became alert as though he found support again. He hurriedly responded, yes. Hearing the sounds of the subordinate going away, Jiangzhe raised his eyes and murmured gently. It will not be long before I flatten Cloud Sijie. In Cloud Sijie, almost no one knew about the battle that had killed Xian Kong Temple's battalion. Scouts only reported that a battalion had suddenly appeared near the Jie River but was quickly exterminated. This matter did not cause any ripples. Everyone found that it was matter of fact. Even the MO battalions fell at the foot of Lil Miss Darren, which battalion could stop Vermilion Bird Camp. Right now, Turtle Island's rule of Cloud Sijie was rock solid. Even though Turtle Island's forces that remained were not strong, these little factions also did not have great ambitions. Lil Miss had not given up his plan of going to reinforce Suemo. Even though his plan had reached a roadblock when he encountered a Zhagu, but a person like Lil Miss that was unusually stubborn of regarding victory would not easily give up. The state of Middle Granary Jia had stabilized. As Golden Crow Camp's success with Mo matrices and formations increased, they would continue to grow stronger. In this battle, the hate between them and Xian Kong Temple would only increase. There would not be any possibility that this could be resolved peacefully. However, Gongsun Cha had never thought that there was a possibility of a peaceful resolution. Would an elephant try to reach a resolution with an ant? That was a joke. There was insanity flowing in Gongsun Cha's blood. He was not afraid. Fighting against Xian Kong Temple would only make him excited. Compared to Xian Kong Temple, what he cared about more was Zhuo Mo Shixiang. Right now, he was considering if he should fight a Zhagu again or find another Jia had that a chaos rift. He quickly threw the idea of finding another Jia to the back of his mind. This was not very plausible. It was already good fortune to find Middle Granary Jia. It was more realistic to go find a Zhagu. Lil Miss decided to first go find a Zhagu and have a discussion. If that did not work, then he would just fight. Gongsun Cha, whose mind was full of ideas on how to reach Suemo as fast as possible, forgot that he had just reached an alliance with a Zhagu not long ago. What happened in Cloud Sijie did not cause a ripple in the Four Realms. Everyone's gaze was attracted by another string of events. Kunlun's Shui Dong had conquered Fortune Wood Jie. This was the second Mo Jia the Xiuzhe had taken over. Even though it was not as momentous as Jiangzhe, Kunlun also displayed their strength to the world. Just a few days later, two explosive pieces of news appeared. Tianhuan's Gongye Shaorong had taken over Blackrock Jie. Shixian's Guliang Dao conquered North Gauze Jie. Gongye Shaorong was a famed battle general from Tianhuan, but the name Guliang Dao was unfamiliar to everyone and he appeared out of nowhere. However, this did not stop the celebrations of the people of the Four Realms. Everyone was filled with hope about the war now that the four great sects had all advanced. Everyone dreamed that the four great sects could continue their victory over the Yaoma after the 1,000-year war. The development of the state of affairs appeared natural as people had predicted this. Zuoimo gaped as he listened with astonishment to Shu Long and the others' narration. Thinking that he had been the cause of that terrifying scene, Zuomo felt even worse. However, Zuomo's first response was to run into the sea of consciousness and hurriedly asked Pu Yao and Wei, "Would today affect our plan?" Pu Yao and Wei did not speak and looked at Zuomo as though they were looking at a freak. Zuomo became impatient. Talk. According to their previous plan, Zuomo needed to attract the attention of the large families. However, even Zuomo felt he had gone overboard with today's display. What he was worried about was that if this affected the plan, he would not be able to attract the arrival of Princess Xia. That would be bad. Do not worry. The one who spoke was Pu Yao. Even though his expression was strange, he still spoke. This display of yours can definitely attract Princess Xia. That's good. Zhuemo seemed to be relieved of a great burden. Azhua, you are very talented, Wei said with a smile. These words caused Pu Yao to instantly have a wary expression. You only notice now. In a good mood, Zhuemo lazily replied. Then he suddenly looked with a heated gaze at Zhuemo, his thumb and index finger rubbing together. He asked with begging eyes, is there a reward? Such a genius is in front of you, will you not express something? Seeing Wei's shocked expression, Zhuemo felt very disappointed. He looked disdainfully at Wei and muttered, so this is just empty praise. Ha, are people that only give empty praise in this era? The honored gravestone armor, such a lowering of status. Finishing, he left without another glance at Wei. Looking at Wei frozen in his spot, Pu Yao gave a roaring and carefree laugh. Coming out of the sea of consciousness, Zhuemo saw Tseng Lianer's serene eyes. How come you are able to cause a movement in the stars? Tseng Lianer's voice seemed to become ethereal in the night. Because. Zhuemo, who had not been rewarded, looked at her bewitching face with a serious expression as he said with emphasis, I am a genius. Finishing, he disregarded Tseng Lianer's wide eyes and walked towards his rooms. In reality, even he didn't know why he would cause the shifting star sand. After being awake for a night, he didn't feel tired at all. He felt as though his body contained endless power. Entering the room, he quickly sank into meditation. He needed to have a good study of his breakthrough today. Also, he remembered that something seemed to float out when those starlight charged into the Sun Mo matrix at the center of his chest. In meditation, Zhuemo did not have joy nor sorrow on his face. Every piece of muscle, blood and bone inside his body was perfectly visualized. The completely new 3-power system was so enchanting. Countless images flowed across his mind. He suddenly opened his eyes and his expression seemed slightly excited. He finally knew what had came into his mind the moment the Sun Mo matrix had been flooded, the first transformation of the 10-Crow celestial apparatus. Chapter 584, Low Opinion. Buheng's expression was extremely dark. He had been deeply impacted when he saw Zhuemo cause the shifting stars sands. More accurately, he had a strong feeling of danger. It was not a wise course of action to be enemies with a genius that could cause worldly apparitions. However, their grudge was already set in stone. It was too late to peacefully resolve this. Bu Heng was still calm. The mind of a gold battle general was as strong and hard as stone. Viciousness flashed across his face. The best way to deal with a genius youth was to kill it in its cradle before they grew up. Genius youths before they became stronger did not have more lives than anyone else. He decided to personally get in contact with a person. Zhuemo flipped through the mountain of invitations but his face fell. There isn't one from the Anwei family. Not just Anwei family, there wasn't an invitation from the top families. These were all invitations from small families. Zhuemo, who had been extremely interested and filled with pride, seemed to have been hit over the head and felt very depressed. Is it because my performance is not eye-catching enough? Zhuemo pondered. It is not that you are not eye-catching. Pu Yao was experienced and explained. You have displayed great potential, but 1, your origins are unknown, and 2, you have not been tested in real combat. Pang Chen is a famous warrior, but in Great Peace City, he is not ranked. The bigger the family, the more cautious and strict their tests. Zhuemo understood. His eyebrow raised, so they don't feel that I am strong enough? You can understand it this way. There was a careless smile on Pu Yao's face. You have showed strong potential, but if that potential cannot become strength, it is forever potential. The internal competition in those families isn't something you can imagine. They have many youths with potential. What they need are experts, not youths with potential. I understand. Zhuemo stood up. It seems that I need to defeat some strong people before I can attract their attention. Without another word, he went to find Tao Xing. Tao Xing's attitude towards Zhuemo had completely changed now. He had been astounded by the worldly apparition that night. Originally, he had felt somewhat proud because he was a city master. Wherever he went, people respected him. However, that bit of ego had dissipated. Shifting star sand, a worldly apparition that only existed in the legends, actually occurred in front of him. Compared to the other, Tao Xing didn't feel that he was really worth something. Tao Xing's attitude was respectful. "Darren, for what have you found me for?" Zhuo Mo was slightly surprised at Tao Xing's attitude, but he did not inquire about it. He asked directly, "Tell me about the experts of Great Peace City." The experts of Great Peace City. Tao Xing paused. Inside, he thought, was this young man going to make a challenge again? In his mind, Zhuo Mo was someone that was restless. But since Zhuo Mo asked, Tao Xing decided to give him a good explanation so that Zhuo Mo would understand who he could provoke and who he could not. There are many experts in Great Peace City and they are all called famous warriors. However, there are ranks among these famous people. Pang Chen, who you defeated, is only a normal famous person, and was unranked. These famous warriors are general level and have MO physiques. The experts among the famous warrior have a ranking called the Great Peace MO ranking. It records the 20 most powerful experts in Great Peace City. The 3 strongest are Chang Yuanhao, Yu Shuang, and Nan Meng Shui. They are just a step away from martial rank. Qi Diao Yu is also at this level, but it has been many years since he appeared in Great Peace City, so his name is not on the Great Peace MO ranking. Zhuo Mo listened carefully. The second tier is the 4th to 12th spots. The experts of this level have been in general level for many years and are experts that have comprehended boundary. The third tier is the 13th to the 20th positions. The experts of this level have not comprehend boundary, but if they are not cultivating an unique MO physique, they use a powerful MO skill in order to reach this spot on the Great Peace MO ranking. Lan Tian Long is this level. He is 18th. Under them is the famous warrior ranking. The people on the Great Peace MO ranking are not ones that we can challenge. Most of them have come for the Great Peace MO skill steals, and do not attend to outside matters. In comparison, the changes in the famous warrior rankings is more intense. The possibility of victory is also greater. If you are interested, you can try the famous person rankings. Tao Xing said probingly to Zhuo Mo. If this one had to make a challenge, then it would be best if he went to the famous warrior ranking. It was alright for him to try the famous warrior ranking since he had killed Pang Chen in 2 moves and Pang Chen's ranking on the famous warrior ranking was not low. Zhuo Mo glanced at him, asking, "What is the 20th person on the Great Peace MO ranking called?" Tao Xing's face instantly turned ashen, his heart beating rapidly. He said timidly, "Darren, you can start from the famous warrior ranking, this also has many experts." Famous warrior ranking? Zhuo Mo's head shook like a rattle drum. Just by listening to it, he knew the weight of the famous warrior ranking was not enough. In order to move an ancient family like the Anwei family, which had high standards, if he could not reach the Great Peace MO ranking, the other wouldn't even look at him properly. Thinking about the pile of stupid invitations, Zhuo Mo's eyes twitched, he was being underestimated. The 20th of Great Peace MO ranking. Zhuo Mo's attitude was determined. Tao Xing shrunk back under Zhuo Mo's pressuring gaze. He said with a startled heart, "Miao Jun." "Miao Jun." Zhuo Mo repeated, his gaze murderous. Tao Xing looked at Zhuo Mo's vicious expression. His legs softened and he sat down on the ground. Zha Ge was slightly shocked. Gong Sun Cha had come to find him again. He did not know why. The two of them had just entered an alliance. Did Gong Sun Cha had some new ideas? "Brother Gong Sun, is there something that you come to find this one with?" Zha Ge was not afraid and directly asked. Zha Ge's straightforward attitude suited Gong Sun Cha's appetites. He said seriously, "This one wants Brother Zha Ge to give up the Chaos Rift." Zha Ge's expression suddenly changed and his eyes darkened. What does Brother Gong Sun mean? Gong Sun Cha knew that he was the one asking something outrageous, but there was no reasoning that could be spoken of in this matter. He was silent for a moment before saying, "This one is compelled by the circumstances. This one is willing to make this up to brother Aja Gu in other places." Aja Gu smiled coldly. "This one wants to hear the circumstances." Gong Sun Cha was very honest and narrated the situation. Other than not saying Zhuo Mo's name, he did not conceal anything else. After Aja Gu heard this, his anger dissipated. He was a person that was attuned to details and he naturally could hear the truthfulness of Gong Sun Cha's words. He still shook his head. Brother Gong Sun is a good friend and this one is moved. However, Orchid Home Jia is an important part of my clan and definitely cannot be given up. If brother wants to go though, that is fine. Lil Miss shook his head. We will successively send out battalions. We also need more MO experts in order to increase our reinforcements. Aja Gu suddenly laughed. Brother Gong Sun is really fantasizing. The Yaoma have deep hate with Xiuzhe, how can they work for you? Gong Sun Cha glanced at Aja Gu, saying, Brother Aja Gu, please wait for a moment. A short while later, a large crowd of MOs suddenly appeared in front of Lil Miss and bowed to him. Aja Gu suddenly stood up. He stared at the MO in front of him and almost didn't believe his eyes. MO. True MO. What surprised him even more was that they were all Brigadier MO. Even within his battalion, these would be elite members. There were dozens of them in front of him. I believe that Brother Aja Gu can see that they are truly MO and we have not put Jinji in them. Gong Sun Cha's words came. Aja Gu stared hard at this MO. He suddenly asked in a deep voice, why are you working for Xiuzhe? Des brow furrowed. Who is working for Xiu? We are in the service of our king. King. Aja Gu almost froze where he stood. He was sure that his smart mind wasn't enough to use today. He saw a group of Brigadier MO within a Xiuzhe battalion and then these MO were saying they were in the service of king. Then what were these Xiuzhe? Just like he did not believe that MO would stay in the service of Xiuzhe, he also did not believe that Xiuzhe would work for a MO, even if he was king. Ida was very displeased at the other's gaze. However, he still narrated how their king had been lost to the Xiuzhe world, how he had cultivated the great Daimo physique by himself, how he had created a Xiuzhe battalion, how he had fought against Yiling Darren and received everyone's loyalty. These absurd words were being spoken by a Brigadier MO, and when this was said as she stood with several dozen MO, it became extremely convincing. But Aja Gu felt it was incomprehensible. Looking at Des troops, he was motionless for a long time. Gong Sun Cha glanced over. This was possible. He hurriedly pulled Aja Gu to watch Vermilion Bird Camp's new tactics. Aja Gu's mind which had been dizzy suddenly cleared up. His eyes widened as he stared hard at this battalion. He could see that the skeleton of this battalion was still the battalion that he had fought against before but that the Brigadier MO had been added. This was the first battalion he had ever seen that was composed of Xiuzhe and MO mixed together. This kind of heterogeneous battalion had extremely unique tactics. Even though he was only seeing the foot of the mountain, he still inhaled sharply. Such a transformation. In this short time, this battalion had completely transformed. Their present strength caused Aja Gu's heart to beat wildly. His gaze turned to that bashful youth that had the face of an innocent neighbor's boy. For some reason, coldness continuously corroded his bravery and was unable to be suppressed. His limbs felt cold. As one of the three great battle generals of the stellar Rahula clan, Aja Gu never lacked for bravery. But his face was ashen as though he had just been defeated in a battle. He knew that if the two fought again, he had no chance of victory. The faint smile on Gong Sun Cha's face was so profound. Aja Gu did not know what had happened in these days that a battalion could transform so completely. This youth. He saw the insanity and stubbornness in the depths of Gong Sun Cha and suddenly understood, he's a madman. Chapter 585, gamble, yes, he caused the shifting star sands, all of Great Peace City saw it, and he also broke Qi Diao Ye's record. Many families are starting to pay attention to him. Continue to monitor the situation. Should we make contact? There are many people noticing him. Do not worry too much. With his present fame, no major family would offer him a high price. As for those small families, even if they recruit him, it would not be hard for us to pull him over. But no one is stupid. The shifting star sands are very powerful and show that he has potential. However, those that are worth us acting are geniuses that can grow and live to become experts. Yes, Bu Heng is acting against him. Should we make contact? Why should we? You have to understand those that cannot survive are of no value to us. Yes. Go and help Bu Heng. However, do not leave any clues behind. It is the shifting star sands, you have to give him some special treatment. I feel some anticipation. Yes, this subordinate understands. Go. The shifting star sands worldly manifestation only remained in the minds of the people of Great Peace City for a few days before it was quickly replaced by major news of the Four Realms' victories on all fronts. The power of the four great sects caused both the Yao and the Mo to become nervous, especially the Mo. In the battles of Blood Sky Metropolis Jia, the Yao had suffered heavy casualties, but the Mo had been largely unharmed and not really felt any pain. However, of the four Jia which had been conquered, 3 belonged to the Mo. A strong feeling of danger seemed to press down on them. Fortunately, the 3 Jia that were taken were all very far from Great Peace City. But terror and nervousness still uncontrollably spread. Something like this was not something that could be reversed by one expert unless a king personally acted. But while the Mo would have king-level experts, the Xiuzha also had people in the Deshang realm. The fighting between experts of this level were on a strategic level. Unless it was a crucial time, neither side would act as the risks were too high. As long as there were enough people and resources, a battalion could be reconstructed again in a few years and were naturally restored. But experts of such a high level, if one died, there would not be one to replace them. Not just king, even a Mo marshal was very difficult to nurture. This could be seen from how many general levels were stuck at the very edge of marshal level in Great Peace City. A string of defeats suddenly caused all of Great Peace City to become more solemn. Everyone lost interest in chatting and were all worried. Brother Miao, what do you think? An extremely elegant Mo looked with worry at Miao Jun. Miao Jun did not have a large figure. He had a square face with sharply defined features that slightly showed his age. His eyes were a crisp green, his figure stocky, and he sat there casually but with presence. Miao Jun thought and then said gravely. This is not a strange development. Not strange, his friend's interest was stirred by this and he hurriedly asked, how is this not strange? Miao Jun said in a low voice, no matter if people verbally agree or not, the Xiuzha are stronger than the Yaoma, this is the truth. This is caused by the results of the 1,000-year war, and no one can change this. In the past, we had the Blood Sky Metropolis Jia as a barrier, but now without it to serve as a border we are all mixed together. We lost the buffer between us and now have to face them and fight. At this time, what matters is strength. So it is not strange that we have lost. So according to Brother Miao, doesn't this mean that we will definitely lose in the end? Another person asked in disagreement. Losing in the beginning is already set in stone, but it is hard to say what is going to happen later on. Miao Jun's tone was calm and his thoughts clear. The Xiuzha have started to gain victories, so they will keep on advancing, and we will keep retreating. Many things will change in this cycle of advances and retreats. The other will be fighting on foreign land, and once the battle lines are drawn out, they will be tired out in maintaining it. We look to be retreating, but we have an advantage in fighting on home territory. Also, with the calamity and battles many clans will be destroyed, and we will not have any more places to retreat to. When we are fighting with our backs to the precipice, we will be determined. The speech was rational and clear. All of them sighed in agreement. At this time, Miao Jun's gaze suddenly focused and he shouted in a deep voice, "Which friend has come here? Why do you not come forward?" Clap clap clap. As Zuo walked in, he clapped. He was not pretending, he truly felt that the other had spoken well. The complex state of matters was simplified by the other into clear and concise points. Just this foresight alone was unusual. Little Mo Gu was someone that had seen great things. Xiao Mo Gu. Miao Jun's expression was surprised. He was not the only one. The expressions of the people around him instantly became strange. Everyone recognized the youth in front of them. Was this that Xiao Mo Gu that just a while ago had caused the shifting star sands? Zuo Mo was examining Miao Jun. Miao Jun was also examining Xiao Mo Gu. Miao Jun had been astounded by the shifting star sands that night, but what he felt more of was admiration. In terms of talent, he and the other people of the Great Peace Mo rankings did not lack for it. Otherwise, they would not have gotten on the Great Peace Mo ranking. However, compared to a freak that could have shifting star sand, their presence instantly became dim in the light of that person. Miao Jun sometimes would think if he could have the shifting star sand once, even if he could not enter martial level, he would not have a problem comprehending boundary. But no matter how jealous he was, after being shocked for 2 days, the matter had settled. So when Miao Jun saw Zuo Mo, he was just slightly surprised. "I had originally come to challenge Brother Miao." When Zuo Mo spoke, the room instantly became silent. Everyone was shocked by his words. But when I heard Brother Miao's speech just now, this one is in great admiration of Brother Miao's foresight and suddenly changed ideas. Zuo Mo spoke smoothly as though he thought himself a very strong person and did not show any timidity. Miao Jun suddenly felt it was very humorous and asked interestedly, "Oh, how did you change your opinion? When he was young, wasn't he also as green as this?" The other people could not suppress their amused expressions, especially when they saw Zuo Mo's serious expression. Some even laughed. In their eyes, Zuo Mo was a complete greenhorn while Miao Jun was someone who had been famed for a long time. Right now, the greenhorn was swaying his head and lecturing in front of someone famous. Wasn't this funny? Zuo Mo did not seem to feel the others laughing at him. He said with a serious expression, "I believe that Brother Miao is an exceptional battle general." Miao Jun was slightly surprised. He would occasionally speak about matters of the world, but no one had ever connected him to being a battle general. It seemed that this youth had very sensitive perception. Miao Jun's heart shook slightly. "So I hope that Brother Miao can come help me," Zuo Mo said with a serious expression. Everyone's smiles seemed to freeze on their faces. Their eyes were wide as they looked at Zuo Mo, their expressions strange. A moment later. "Ha!" One person finally could not stop himself and slammed the floor in laughter as though he heard the funniest joke in the world. The laughter seemed to be infectious and quickly spread. All the people in the room roared with laughter. "Ha! He wants to recruit Brother Miao. He actually wants to recruit Brother Miao. Ha 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 ha. Did I hear it right? What day is it today? I'm going to die from laughing." A little child actually ran over and serious wanted to recruit Miao Jun. This was the funniest matter in the history of Great Peace City. Even Miao Jun couldn't help but laugh. "I'm very sorry, my present life is already very good." Zuo Mo suddenly said, "You wouldn't even consider it for celestial azure essence?" Miao Jun's smile suddenly froze and he abruptly stood up. "You have celestial azure essence?" He unconsciously stepped forward and grabbed at Zuo Mo. Zuo Mo did not dodge. A light flashed in his eyes and his presence was suddenly released. Luo Li shut himself off in the room. His complexion had recovered from its previous pale tone. The content of Life-Death Lock flashed through his mind. He had spent the last days studying this art that was completely irrational without any rest. For him, death was not a difficult matter. Sometimes, it would take more bravery to live than to die. This bravery might just be a reason or a thread of hope. Luoli did not have anything to hesitate about. His heart that had returned to life was grasping at a hope so small it was almost non-existent. Entering the state of death could stimulate the greatest potential of a person. Then it could reconstruct Woli, right? Even if this only allowed him to just see her one last time. Luoli slowly closed his eyes. He let the darkness take over his world, but his lips were curled in a smile. Zuomo's explosive presence was like a tsunami that lost its restraints and flowed in all directions. Miao Jun's eyes suddenly lit up. They were like suns and unable to be stared at directly. The other people changed expression. All laughter was choked off. They panicked, fled outside. This presence made them feel suffocated. The presence that Xiaomo Gu gave off was not weaker than Miao Jun at all. Are you going to come? Zuomo's voice was deep. Miao Jun smiled coldly. Depends on whether you have the skill. Defeating you? Zuomo did not dodge Miao Jun's blinding gaze and continued to ask. You have celestial azure essence? Miao Jun asked in response. Yes. Zuomo was crisp. Miao Jun's expression changed. He clearly was conflicted inside. Wei, you are so evil. Zuomo thought inside, but his expression was proper. Why don't we have a bet? Bet? Miao Jun's eyes narrowed. Yes, let's have a fight. You lose, then you follow me, you win, the celestial azure essence is yours. Zuomo threw out the bait. How do I know that you have the celestial azure essence? Miao Jun said, unconvinced. You can gamble whether or not I have it. Zuomo was not affected. Miao Jun's eyes narrowed even more, and the light grew brighter. He said coldly, if you lose, I will not let you die so easily. When I lose, you will have a lot of time to do as you wish. Zuomo said coldly. Inside, he looked with sympathy at Miao Jun. Wei, you are so devious. As expected, the more of a fortune-teller one was, the worse they were. Chapter 586, A Strong Presence. After their discussion, Zha Gu worriedly returned to the clan, did not even have the time to report about this matter with Gong Sun Cha before he was stunned by the bad news. Gongye Xiao Rong had taken over Blackstone Jia, Bai Shan and Delay both were killed in battle. He almost thought he was hearing it wrong. After asking 3 times and still getting the same answer, he froze where he stood. In a flash, only a Zha Gu was left of the 3 great stellar Rahula battle generals. A grieving atmosphere covered all of Orchid Home Jie. Bai Shan and Delay had been the elite of the Rahula clan. Now that their entire army had been killed, the stellar Rahula clan was greatly impacted. A Zha Gu who had froze for a long time felt cold, his face was pale. If Crow Stone Jia was taken over, the other could point their attack at Orchid Home Jia at any time. Crow Stone Jia and Orchid Home Jia had many Jia rivers connecting them. It was easy to attack but hard to defend. The other could easily enter Orchid Home Jia. This meant that the enemy could appear at any time. A grieving Zha Gu knew that the situation was running out of time. If the battalions of Tianhuan reached Orchid Home Jia, they would not be able to escape in time. With only a Zha Guess 1 battalion left, the Rahula clan was not the other's match. Abandon anything heavy. Retreat from Orchid Home Jia at the fastest speed. Go towards White Stone Jia. A Zha Guess hurried voice echoed. Before he could finish, the alarmed voice of a scout interrupted a Zha Gu. Darren. Enemy scouts have appeared near the Jia River. A Zha Guess face instantly turned gray. So fast. Looking at the old, weak, ill and crippled, a Zha Guess heart felt cold. Was today the day that the stellar Rahula clan would die? There was no time. The speed of the weak clan members would not outrun the enemy battalion. What also was hopeless was that Orchid Home Jia was completely flat and had no defensive structures. The other had greater numbers and he could not even delay them for any significant amount of time. Would he only be able to watch his clan's people be killed? The hopeless and terrified gazes of his clan people deeply pierced and pained Ajag's heart. Just as the last thread inside almost faded, he suddenly thought of a person. A daring idea appeared in his mind. The time did not allow him to think. At this time, he was like a man drowning that grabbed at a life-saving reed. He didn't hesitate, turning and flying furiously towards the chaos rift. Gongsun Cha saw Zha Ge return not long after he had left. He felt slightly surprised. When he had interacted with Zha Ge these few times, he had a general understanding of the other's personality. The other was decisive and resolute, someone that would not easily waver. When Zha Ge saw Lil Miss, a conflicted expression came onto his face. But he gritted his teeth and knelt down with a bang. My stellar Rahula clan is willing to serve under our king. Zhage's words were very measured. What he submitted to was not Gongsun Cha but the king's service. This way, no one could say anything. Gongsun Cha was slightly stunned. Zhage's move was too sudden. He didn't believe a domineering presence could shock the other and have them submit. He naturally noticed what meaning the words, submitting to the king's service meant. But he did not care. What he wanted was Orchid Home Jia and this chaos rift. Zha Ge is willing to gift Orchid Home Jia and asks for nothing else except for Darren to protect the lineage of my Rahula clan. Zha Ge said sorrowfully. Gongsun Cha did not immediately respond and asked in curiosity, what is going on? Zha Ge was pressed for time but he knew if he did not clearly explain, the other definitely would not believe him. He pushed down his urgency and rapidly narrated the situation. Lil Miss was a smart person. When he finished listening to the situation, he knew what was going on. Orchid Home Jia was the best starting place they had found up until now. For this opportunity, Lil Miss had even fought with a Zha Ge. While Tianhuan's Gongye Shao Rong was famous, at this time Lil Miss showed his shocking decisiveness. He did not hesitate. Depart. Vermilion Bird Camp passed through the Chaos Rift at full speed and left for Orchid Home Jia. Flying at full speed, the wind blew across the bangs on Lil Miss' forehead. The bashful and harmless face was now like a sword that was unsheathed, full of edges and murderousness. He did not fear Xian Kong Temple, he also did not fear Tianhuan. They wanted to take food from his mouth. No one could do it. When Vermilion Bird Camp flew into the city of Stellar Rahula, they instantly caused a furor. Gongsun Cha did not hesitate and said to Zha Ge, have them retreat towards the Chaos Rift. Zha Ge had a moved expression. He knew that Gongsun Cha's words would save many members of his clan. He hurriedly sent a subordinate to give the order while he led his battalion to follow Vermilion Bird Camp. Gongsun Cha sent a message to the battalion that was standing guard in Middle Granary Jia and for them to settle these Stellar Rahula clan members. At this time, a Zha-Ge scout reported back. The Tianhuan battalion has already crossed the Jia River. Zha Ge looked at Lil Mississippi. Since he had submitted, he would naturally follow Lil Miss orders. Looking at the members of his clan that were retreating towards the Chaos Rift, Zha Ge was content. Even if he were to die in battle today, he would not have any regrets. Since Gongsun Cha could tolerate the MO in Vermilion Bird Camp, he could naturally tolerate the Stellar Rahula clan. Even if Lil Miss had him launch a suicide attack on the Tianhuan battalion, he would not hesitate. He looked at Lil Miss and waited for his order. A flash of insanity passed through Gongsun Cha's eyes but his expression was indifferent as he said, go welcome them. Vermilion Bird Camp and a Zha-Ge's battalion were like two floods that flew towards the Jia River. 6 hours later, they met the Tianhuan battalion. Gongye Shao Rong's appearance was extremely average, one that would be hard to find in a crowd of people. He was wearing a nondescript light blue cloth robe. There was no ephemeral presence, no sharp killing energy. He was someone that was extremely plain and not like a cultivator at all. However, a group of battle generals that flashed with treasure light swarmed around him, and so his plain cloth robe became an unusual contrast. Yet it was this person that looked average and normal that took over Black Stone Jia and also killed 2 elite armies of the Stellar Rahula clan. In terms of beauty, Gongye Xiaorong's fighting style was even better than Jiang Zhe taking over Cold Mountain Jie. There are Xiuzhe battalions here. Gongye Xiaorong was slightly surprised. He was not the only one. All the battle generals around him had shocked expressions, but more of their expressions darked. In their eyes, Orchid Home Jia was like a mature peach. They had waited for a long time, but now someone else had suddenly taken over it. Their mood could be imagined. Send someone to ask where they are from, Gongye Xiaorong said interestedly. He could see that the Rahula clan seemed to have surrendered to this Xiuzhe battalion. Another battalion had taken over another Jie. This was very unexpected. Up until now, only the 4 great sects had achieved victories. Now a battalion of unknown origins had come out halfway. How could he not be interested? A combat Xiu flew out of the Tianhuan battalion. This combat Xiu's body flashed with all kinds of light, and it could be seen from the talismans he had that they were of extraordinary grade. Tianhuan was skilled in seals, formations, and forging. In the field of talismans, they were the top of the 4 realms. Under the shine of the treasure light, the combat Xiu seemed of great bearing. Facing the 2 battalions, he did not show any fear. He looked down and said coldly, "Someone who can make decisions, come out and respond." The other's careless tone caused the people around Lil Miss to become angry. The other was so proud and rude. Gong Sun Cha's bashful face, like that of the neighbor's body, had a faint smile. That pair of eyes that were as warm as sunlight flashed with killing intent and craziness. Xia Shan, take his head. Xia Shan had been waiting for this. He instantly turned into a sword light and shot at the other. He was very fast. A golden sword light suddenly appeared in front of the other. This combat Xiuzhe just felt a dot of golden light suddenly show up in front of him and blinded him. Instantly, a cold sword essence locked onto him and his face immediately changed. He shouted loudly, "You dare!" Panicked, the Ling armor of the Tianhuan combat Xiu lit up. Countless transparent seal scripts protected him. The gold light heavily hit the seal scripts. Bam! A crisp sound, the Tianhuan combat Xiu's expression changed slightly. The Ling armor on his body had shattered with one blow. However, what reassured him was that the other's blow had still been stopped. Yet before he could celebrate, a little tiny golden light flew out of the exploding ball of golden light and flashed directly across his neck. Like a knife cutting tofu. The head shot up and blood sprayed out in a pillar. That tiny golden light flashed and disappeared. Along with the bigger golden light, they returned to Xia Shan's hands. Everyone finally saw that the flying swords in Xia Shan's hands were a pair of golden flying swords, one big and one small. Paired Mirage Sword. The Tianhuan combat Xiu were first stunned and then infuriated. The battle formation shifted and many combat Xiu wanted to charge immediately out of anger. The smile on Lil Miss' face grew, and his tone was as sharp as a blade. Formation. Vermilion Bird Camp's battle formation silently changed. The combat Xiu on the 2 flanks slid back multiple steps and the entire combat formation changed. Sharp killing intent radiated. It was like a wild beast whose body was arced forward slightly, waiting to pounce in a lightning attack. The Tianhuan battalion that had been shifting instantly quieted. They were an elite battalion that had been through many battles and were very sensitive to killing intent. They instantly detected the other battalion had locked onto them. If they continued to be restless, the battle formation would show flaws which the other would immediately attack. The restless combat Xiu instantly calmed down. All of them started to prepare for battle. Gongye Xiaorong's face became dark. He narrowed his eyes. Only now did the presence he gave off turn into something that could not be concealed by this plain cloth robe. A strong feeling of suppression caused Gongye Xiaorong to feel pressure. Professionals could detect if others had talent. The other just changed his formation slightly and Gongye Xiaorong knew he had encountered a strong enemy. However, he still felt surprised by the other's strong attitude and viciousness. There was no buffer in the entire process. It was so clean and crisp he smelled the scent of danger. Who were they? Chapter 587, Tit for Tat. This one is Tian Huan's Gongye Shao Rong. Gongye Shao Rong smiled and bowed in the direction of Gong Sun Cha. The generals under his commander were all shocked. They had not expected Darren to be the first to show weakness to the other. The enemy had killed their combat Xiao in front of them without even asking for a reason, yet Darren proactively showed weakness first. Many people had rebellious expressions. They were Tian Huan. When had Tian Huan been humiliated so? Yes. This was a humiliation. Almost everyone had prepared to fight, wanting to charge and kill all of them. None of them had expected Darren to show weakness. If Gongye Shao Rong's authority was not as secure as it was, the rebellious battle generals would have started to talk already. This one is Gong Sun Cha. Lil Miss still had a sunny smile. In the eyes of the Tian Huan battle generals, this was an extreme eyesore. Gong Sun Cha. Never heard of this person. Gongye Shao Rong thought carefully and was certain that he really had not heard the name before. He noticed the other only gave his name but not his origins. There was something to ponder here. Also, a battalion like this should not be unknown. Gongye Shao Rong's eyes flashed and were meaningful. It was not so easy to form a strong battalion. Gongye Shao Rong had went through the process of building one and knew very well how difficult it was. Was there a faction that had targeted a position among the Great Four from the shadows? This was the first thought that flashed through his mind. But when he thought, he couldn't help but laugh soundlessly. This thought was nonsense. As expected, heroes come from the youth. Brother Gong Sun is so young and in charge of a battalion. Shao Rong was just whiling away the days in the past. Gongye Shao Rong had a smile. But then his tone changed. But why is Brother Gong Sun in cahoots with the MO? Gong Sun Cha's smile was like a flower. His tone was warm but his words were very sharp. In cahoots with the MO? Brother Gong, yes, words are strange. This sect has taken over Orchid Home Jie. The stellar Rahula clan admires our sect's conduct and is willing to submit, turning from evil towards the right path. Isn't such an action something our generation pursues? Then his tone changed. But your battalion still sent your big army after our sect has taken Orchid Home Jie. Is Tian Huan so unreasonable? Are you bullying little sects like us? Lil Miss smiled as he spoke, sometimes full of gentleness, and then his tone turned murderousness. But while he was uttering complete falsehoods, he was extremely composed. At the sight, Jia Gu felt cold inside. What, take over Orchid Home Jie? In just a few words, Lil Miss established his position. Truth and falsehood, it was hard for the other to pick out which was which. Jia Gu decided he did not want to be enemies with Lil Miss in this life. If he had an enemy like this, he probably wouldn't even know how he died. Gongye Shao Rong did not know what to say. Just a step late, and his judgment had made a great mistake. He was not the only one. Even his soldiers really thought that Lil Miss had really taken over Orchid Home Jie. But those soldiers did not care. So what if the other got here first? They could take it. They were yearning to go and wanted to charge. The other was not weak, but they were full of confidence and completely did not have a good opinion of the enemy. Gongye Shao Rong stared at the other. He did not believe what Gong Sun Cha said, but he could not pick out any holes in the story. As to the problem of the MO, the Xiuzha had always been divided into two sides on the issue. One group wanted to kill all the MO, and not leave any living. The other would allow the MO to submit to them and advocated for gentle treatment. Both groups had their support in the Xiuzha world, so regarding the problem of the MO, Gongye Shao Rong could not pick any faults. What he considered was far more than his soldiers. This war would probably continue for a very long time. Tian Huan was one of the Great Four and they had to take care of their reputation and image. If they stole whenever they encountered someone weaker than them, how could they ally with other sects? He did not care about Orchid Home Jie. Orchid Home Jie was easy to attack but hard to defend. In terms of value, it was worth far less than Black Stone Jie. However, a cold light flashed through Gongye Xiaorong's eyes. They had to give something in response to his subordinate being killed. However, the one that is killed is one of this one's people. This is still an issue. Gongye Xiaorong slowly spoke. This one expresses deep apology for that, and is willing to pay reparations, Gongsun Cha said with an innocent expression. Gongye Xiaorong's soldiers became furious, their eyes sprouting blood. There is no need for reparations. Blades are blind. The Xiuzhe that go onto the battlefield need to understand they can die on the battlefield. This one's brothers have been proud for many years, and are very competitive upon seeing Brother Gongsun's brothers today. Please, Brother Gongsun, help me teach my brothers. Finishing, he did not wait for Lil Miss to speak. He turned around and said, Dili, pick 50 brothers and ask for guidance from this Gongsun Darren. Yes. A black-faced man stood up and accepted the order. The smile on Gongsun Cha's face was still the same. Since Brother Gongye has such interest, this little brother will naturally go along. Ida, take your team, go. Ida had an excited expression. He shot out of the ranks and said seriously, will not fail Darren's expectations. Relax, relax. Lil Miss smiled. But Ida's expression was determined. To be able to be picked by Darren at such an important time, Darren's intentions of nurturing him was evident. No matter what, he had to win. He stared murderously at the enemy. Dili stared back hard at Ida. Ida suddenly grinned like a wild beast staring at its prey and bared its sharp teeth. The challenge stadium was filled with crowds. The bet and challenge between Zhou Mo and Miao Jun spread through all of Great Peace City like a wind. Countless people flowed towards the challenge stadium. The challenge stadium in Great Peace City had been set down with Jinji by the two Mo marshals. If people under marshal level fought inside, the backlash would not break through the Jinji. General level had the power to append seize. When the two Yuanying had fought in Suling City, all of Suling City had been destroyed. If these general levels could fight where they wished, Great Peace City would have been turned to ash a long time ago. Compared to the fight between Zhou Mo and Pang Cheng, this fight attracted more attention. One was an youth that caused the shifting star sand, the other was someone from the Great Peace Mo ranking. The challenge between these two could naturally attract the eyes of people. The Great Peace Mo ranking represented the top 20 experts in Great Peace City. Those that could get onto the ranking had undoubted power. Xiao Mo Gu, who had caused the shifting star sands, was also seen by the entire city. A challenge of such significance was something that caused people's blood to boil just thinking about it. The bet between Miao Ju and Xiao Mo Gu also added light to this significant challenge. Xiao Mo Gu's attention-catching style and his domineering nature did not match his age at all. More people felt surprised that Xiao Mo Gu had found Miao Jun. Was it because Xiao Mo Gu had such great confidence, or did he know something that no one else knew? But these thoughts were just the footnotes of this challenge. Everyone's gaze was completely drawn to the two people in the field. Miao Jun did not move at all. His presence was steady and condensed like a great mountain. He stared closely at Zhou Mo, but he was not as calm inside as he appeared. When he heard the name, Celestial Azure Essence, from Xiao Mo Gu's mouth, he was unable to keep his composure. He had never expected to hear these words from the mouth of someone else, especially a youth. Celestial Azure Essence. Just based on these words, no matter what, he would fight. What he was even more curious about was where Xiao Mo Gu had heard about this, and how had he discovered it. He found that he was unable to get the measure of this youth. Zhou Mo did not think too much. Inside, there was only the desire to obtain victory. He did not care about that, Celestial Azure Essence. That was just bait that way throughout. He might admire Miao Jun, but he didn't really need the other in his service. There was only one thing that was essential in his mind: victory. Zhuo Mo's presence continued to increase. The waves of sound quickly distanced themselves. The burning intent to fight was like fire in his eyes. This was the first time he circulated the 3 newly changed powers inside his body since the shifting star sands incident. Endless power came from inside his body. A pleasure he never felt before made him feel so comfortable he almost roared to the sky. Every piece of muscle, every sinew was so lively and so strong. He did not take off the bandage on his right hand. The sky glass wave was adequate to face Pang Cheng, but it was not enough for Miao Jun. Every piece of muscle in his body was tense like the string of a bow. The Sun Mo matrix at the center of his chest suddenly lit up. The golden Missouri matrix was like a seed that awakened and quickly spread on the surface of Zhuo Mo's body. 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus. Miao Jun's expression changed slightly as he exclaimed, 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus. The Jinji in the battlefield were effective against power but did not affect sound. This shout of 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus instantly spread through the entire battle stadium. The stands that had been silencing their breathing and watching in silence suddenly erupted. 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus. Who that cultivated in Great Peace City would not know of 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus? AMO Physique ranked 3rd in general level. Zhuo Mo did not know the significance and weight of a MO Physique ranking 3rd in general level. But this was a great blow to those that were truly MO. Why did Yi Ling think that Zhuo Mo could become king when he discovered that Zhuo Mo cultivated the Great Day MO Physique? That was because there was always a legend among the MO. Only those with noble blood could cultivate noble Missouri physiques. No one had proven this saying, but among the MO, especially low-level MO, this was something that they all believed in. The Great Day MO Physique that was second among Colonel MO Physiques undoubtedly provide the nobility of Zhuo Mo's blood in Yi Ling's eyes. And 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus that ranked 3rd in general level caused many people's eyes to light up. The experts naturally snorted at the rationale about the noble blood, but they were still full of anticipation. It had been very long since such a powerful MO Physique appeared. Everyone was filled with curiosity. What was the power of MO Physique ranked 3rd in general level? The 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus had a great reputation. Those that came before who cultivated it all were lords of one area. But that was just a legend. Right now, no one had heard of anyone cultivating 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus in the present MO world. Sonic Boom, Shifting Star Sand, 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus, everyone suddenly found that this youth was more eye-catching and brighter than they expected. Zhuo Mo felt the 3 powers that had been renewed inside his body. They were like 3 pieces of magnets that simultaneously attracted and repelled each other and maintained a dynamic equilibrium. When his 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus was released without any restraint, his Ling power and consciousness seemed like the shadow that his MO Physique cast and continuously permeated his body. Such a strange feeling. A strange expression suddenly came onto Zhuo Mo's face. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.